Good morning from Chiang Mai, Thailand. Today is 24 March 2020. It is 0739 here in Thailand, making it about 8:39 p.m. in Washington, D.C. A lot going on. I did not come back on yesterday due to, well, I've been on the phone all over the world, all over Europe, all over Asia. Here in Thailand, I'm in Thailand, of course, talking with friends in Hong Kong and Japan and good Lord, so many. Dubai, many places. Now, I was going to be on the John Batchelor show this morning with Gordon Chang. That was canceled for me because one of John Batchelor's engineers at the studio has tested positive for the virus, is what John told me this morning. And so that was canceled. I should be back on Wednesday night. Hello, Nathan in UK. So, yeah, I now know possibly 3 people personally that may have it. Maddie Kelly, I hope she's on right now. I was just chatting with her. Her symptoms are worse, so she's not going to come on now. She still doesn't have her results back. Remember, Maddie, my friend from Hong Kong, she's actually American. She's in Denver, Colorado. She seems to have contracted it in Denver. She knows who she got it from. But she got tested last Wednesday in Denver and still doesn't have the results back yet. Still doesn't have them. And now her condition is worsened to the point where she can't come online today. So I mean, let's see if Maddie, if you're there, please please post that you're there. I know you were there earlier. Hello, Michael Broderick in LA and SB, and hello in Brazil and in Louisiana and all over Hua Hin. Now, so many things going on. Utah, let's get to it. So many things. Again, I'm not going to be on the John Batchelor show today. Oh, so many things to talk about. Where do you want to start? Let's start with this. Also, I'm sorry, I'm reading something. And so, a black swan is a totally unexpected event. Now they've got a pandemic on their hands that could reshape politics throughout the world. If the Wuhan virus spreads over to the United States, which it will, if it has a big impact on the United States, let's say 50,000 people die from it, and then look back and go, well, President Trump, why didn't you do a travel ban? 50,000 people died from this, and he'll probably lose the election. And if that's going to happen, if 50,000 people in the United States are going to die from this, it probably will happen before summer. So it will absolutely affect the elections. Actually, that's something I said during an interview back in January. So since January, my track record on this has been amazingly accurate. I scaled back my estimation on death count in the United States because I didn't want to sound too crazy that people would just turn me off. So that was a bit of self-censorship on my part. And so what can you do? I wanted enough people to pay attention, both that this is directionally accurate, but at the same time, nobody knows the numbers either. But it's clearly this is the one thing that can take President Trump out of November elections in many different ways. And now I see senior people in the Republican Party are actually coming to finally recognize that. Let me turn off this air conditioning. So many things to talk about here. Now, I highly suggest, I want to say it again, if you're not at your hard point yet, then you need to get there ASAP, right? Your hard point is the place where you want to weather this storm, because now it looks like about 1.5 billion people throughout the world, or let's say some very large number, have been told to stay at home or shelter in place or basically don't go out. So this is huge, obviously, and it's growing still at an exponential pace, and there's no end in sight for that. Now, up in New York, which will be the epicenter for the United States, Governor Cuomo, I've been watching him talk and his releases on his Twitter. He's playing a totally defensive game. I've said several times that he's showing strong leadership, but, watching his speeches, then it dawns on me that, well, if they were really ahead of the ball game, he wouldn't have been scouting out hospital space just 2 days ago. I don't want to get into politics here, But at the same time, it's important that we realize that all of our top leadership in the United States, from federal to every state level that I've paid attention to, is way behind the curve, including New York. New York doesn't have enough PPE, masks and personal protection equipment, gowns. They're asking people to sew gowns and that sort of thing. You see these masks? I bought these in January, right? I bought those in January, and I didn't need them. I bought 600 masks that I gave away to people. I gave away, and I have a few here that I'm still giving out. But I already had enough masks. I didn't need masks. Why did the United States and all these state governments and all these other governments in Europe and across the world need masks? So they're not prepared. So what I'm getting to with this is not to foment anger against the government at this critical time, but to hammer home that we must rely on ourselves. We have to rely on ourselves. We have to rely on people that are giving accurate information, which does not include our Surgeon General, who has told us not to wear masks, which this all leaves me politically homeless. I've been politically homeless since the Iraq War. And then, because I didn't support Bush, and then I didn't support Obama, and now I'm not supporting Trump, except for the way that he's fighting against China. I've really and defended our border is very important. And Brian Kolfaja is 250,000 Americans have helped raise $25 million to build just a short part of border wall on our southern border. But it comes down to people like us doing it ourselves. Now we see across Europe, borders have closed down. For instance, Germany, they're not even allowing interstate travel within European countries. So so many millions of people that were angry at America for closing our borders down are now closing their borders down. And so, so many things. Let's keep talking about, and I'm going to take as many questions as possible because now I've already told you so many things that have not changed. Store up food now. Get your food now. If you don't have it, if you think supply lines are going to be open, I want you to go back and look at all my live streams and look at all my posts, and you will see I have been amazingly accurate, amazingly ahead of the curve, just like I was with the Iraq Civil War, the Afghan War, events in Thailand, events in Hong Kong. I've been so far ahead of the curve because I spend 7 days a week of my life studying and only a little bit actually telling people what's happening because I spend most of that time studying. Now, prisons. I was warning back when that we may have a prison problem, and we are going to have a prison problem, as has Italy, as has Iran. Colombia has had riots in their prison with fatalities. And so what are we going to do with our prisons? What are we going to do when our law enforcement cannot go to work? These are very important matters. You will be down to yourself on defending yourself. Remember, in January, I was saying, get to your hard points. Borders will close. Flights will, all of Cathay Pacific Airline, as an example, is grounded. I was talking with somebody yesterday that works with Cathay Pacific. We talked for maybe an hour, and, it's been grounded for a while. So many interesting things. I am going to take questions. I want to talk about a couple of other things first. For instance, a Newsweek article sent to me by a old Green Beret friend who just got out of quarantine himself for this, but he's okay. Newsweek article. Inside military's top secret plans and if coronavirus cripples government. This is the United States military. Now, keeping in mind, United States military has a plan for everything. They have a plan for, space aliens invading. By the way, I'm getting a lot of emails and messages about, is this a space alien attack? Okay. I want to ask, please keep messages to a minimum, only what's really important, because I'm getting so many messages you wouldn't believe it, like I always do during times of crisis. And so keep them keep it to a bare minimum. Use very short sentences when you communicate. I don't want to see any commas, just very short sentences, very short thought. bang, 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 so that I can go bang, 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 and I don't have to reread sentences that are really long, compound sentences, really short. You see how I write when I'm writing in wartime stuff? It'll be very short sentences. And so please do that and keep communications to a minimum to what's very important, because there's so many messages I cannot answer. But let's get to this Newsweek article. I'm reading it now. Even as President Trump says he's tested negative for coronavirus, the pandemic raises the fear that huge swaths of executive branch or even Congress and the Supreme Court could also be disabled, forcing the implementation of continuity of government plans that include evacuating Washington and devolving leadership to second-tier officials in remote quarantine locations. Yeah, can't you wait until the leadership gets down to our Somali princess? Hopefully it never gets that low. That would be really digging low into the bench. But coronavirus is also new territory where the military itself is vulnerable, and the disaster scenarios being contemplated, including the possibility of widespread domestic violence as a result of food shortages, are forcing planners to look at what are called extraordinary circumstances. Let's talk about that for a minute. Just in the last 24, 48 hours, huge numbers of people in Thailand, I'm in Thailand, have been going back to Laos and Cambodia and Myanmar, Burma, right? They've been leaving because they're out of work, right? So a lot of the domestic help and other things from Thailand are going off the border, right? And what will happen in the United States if many of our farm laborers go off to Mexico and don't come back because they have to watch out for their families down there, right? I mean, these are real potential situations, or people just don't go to work for whatever reason. Let me have a sip of coffee. Thank you. Right. Back to the article. Above top secret contingency plans already exist for what the military is supposed to do if all of the constitutional successors are incapacitated. Standby orders were issued more than 3 weeks ago to ready these plans, not just to protect Washington, but also to prepare for the possibility of some form of martial law. According to new documents, the interviews with military experts, the various plans codenamed Octagon, Freejack, and Zodiac are the underground laws to ensure government continuity. They are so. I hope I'm not having a power outage here, because and it sounds like, or there's some kind of fluctuations going on. Right. Washington. Well, if my power goes out, I might go offline. Well, we've got continuity of power here, but as you can see, my light went out. All right. There we go. So the white balance has changed. Well, there we go. As I've said, be prepared for power outages. Be prepared for this broadcast to end. And your water. But let's get back to this. Above top secret contingency plans already exist for what the military is supposed to do if constitutional successors are incapacitated. Standby orders were issued more than 3 weeks ago to ready these plans, not just to protect Washington, but also to prepare for the possibility of some form of martial law. According to new documents and interviews, I'm sorry about that, that's a UPS, and interviews with military experts, the various plans, codenamed Octagon, Freejack, and Zodiac, are underground laws to ensure government continuity. They are so secret that under these extraordinary plans, devolution could circumvent the normal constitutional provisions for government succession, and military commanders could be placed in control around America. Quote unquote, we're in new territory, says one senior officer. The entire post 9/11 paradigm of emergency planning thrown out the window. The officer jokes in the kind of morbid humor. Let me switch pace. No, Robert. Newsweek doesn't apparently have the plans, but we know that these plans exist. These plans, I mean, I've known that plans like this exist since I was like 14 years old. The officer jokes in the kind of morbid humor characteristic of this slow-moving disaster that America had better learn who General Terrence O'Shaughnessy is. How do you pronounce his name? He is the commander, the combatant commander for the United States. Would strange writing here. He is the combatant commander for the United States and would, in theory, be in charge if Washington were eviscerated. That is, until a new civilian leader could be installed. We're in territory we've never seen before. What happens, government expert Norman Ornstein asked last week, if so many members of Congress come down with the coronavirus that the legislature cannot meet or cannot muster a quorum? Well, I think we're getting there, aren't we? After 9/11, Ornstein and others, alarmed by how little Washington had prepared for such possibilities, they didn't prepare. We don't even have masks. Of course they're not prepared. They're not prepared at all. Created a bipartisan. Listen, read the article if you want to. It's called Inside the Military's Top Secret Plans If Coronavirus Cripples the Government. Bottom line, be prepared for electrical outlet outages. Be prepared for water to go out. If you think supply lines are going to be open, I suggest you rethink your ideas and you relook at my track record on how correct I've been year after year after year on big things like this. I'm not saying that the power is going to go out. What I am saying is since January, I've been warning about that. And what we have seen just in the last 2 or 3 days is power companies asking their workers to possibly stay at their stations and bringing bunks in and that sort of thing. So what happens when the fuel, coal or whatever doesn't make there's so many points of failure that can occur that are, for instance, if we do have some form of martial law or serious social unrest, will we be able to communicate on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube? We've already seen that, their ability to censor, and they do it constantly. And we've seen our own governments and European governments and Asian governments all disseminate. They are the main sources of fake news, are our various governments and the media. I mean, the accurate accountings generally are coming from private people. And so our search is finding which ones are actually very accurate. And so, right. I suggest you have enough food for at least 4 months, minimum 4 months. 1 month is survival rations. You are like, I would not go below 4 months. And now is the time. Look, food prices are not going to go down, right? If there's one price that's not going to go down, it's food, right? If we have problems with food, hey, there's Hellcat Q, my friend from the wars. Q, I'm going to get Q on live at some point. He's out in California. We were in the war together, and finally Q got shot, but he's okay now. There's my friend Jane Bookless. Do you think it will cripple our administration at the highest level? It's very possible. I mean, President Trump could die from this, 1 month. I mean, he's been out there rolling around with people. I mean, you can't stop the Secret Service from getting this. You can't stop, people close to the president from getting this. I mean, even if he were not to die, he could be out of action on a respirator. And so could all the top leadership. Obviously, they need to be separated, and Mike Pence needs to be a boy in a bubble. You know what I mean? For continuity, right? They should not. Mike Pence and President Trump should not be standing side by side together, period. They should be like 1,000 miles apart. And Mike Pence should be like a boy in a bubble. It is that serious. There's nothing that can be done ultimately to keep everybody that potentially has this away from President Trump, especially when he's, got a mind of his own. Let me answer some questions here. Italy's supply chains are breaking down. I've seen some evidence of that too. And remember when I had Maria on the other day, everything was still open. I'm turning my AC on. Hopefully you don't hear it. If you do, I'll turn it down. Maddie, Deborah's asking, how is Maddie feeling? let's put it this way. Maddie's feeling so badly. Let me see if she's sending any messages here that she's not going to come on live today. And let me see. I keep hearing all these messages come in. Let me see if any are from Maddie. They're from all over. They are from all over the place. Hong Kong. Let me see. Many messages from Hong Kong. By the way, they are still fighting in Hong Kong. They're out there. The insurgency is raging in Hong Kong. Remember, the insurgency started in June. I was there by late June. The insurgency started on, you might arguably say June 9th-ish. And I was there June 20-something-ish, right? Immediately jumped because I've been studying China. I've written 3 books on Chinese information war. You see these? That's my latest book. Came out 3 weeks ago. You can find it on Japan, Amazon.jp. It's an ebook, and you can get it in a soft cover. It's only in Japanese language. It's not in English. But when that happened, I jumped. Sorry, I was checking security. After when certain things triggered in Hong Kong, I jumped right on the airplane and flew to Hong Kong, and very quickly realized it actually was an insurgency, way ahead of the game as per normal. And then when this virus kicked off, back in January, there's only a handful of us. Bannon was one, Steve Bannon, Chris Martenson was one. There was a few of us that were right up front. Like, this is potentially very, very serious. Like, potentially the most important thing that's ever happened in humanity, period. Not since World War II or since World War I, but since forever, since the latest big asteroid strike. So now I am going to answer questions. Nega is asking what I think chloroquine will help. I am not going to give any medical advice other than get sunshine, get lots of sleep, vitamin D, vitamin C, eat well. I'm not giving any medicine advice. If I do anything, I will only be publishing links. I know some people have been angry because they tell me, why don't you do this? Why don't you say that? Or they'll say, pass this message on to, listen, please never ask me to pass messages on to people that you have direct contact with, right? That is inappropriate. And I've never liked that since I was like 15 years old. It's like, and I really don't like it now when I don't get enough sleep. So please don't ask me to pass messages along to somebody when their contact email is right there. That's very inappropriate. And hello, Frank Garbasic, one of my old Green Beret friends, a very capable individual. Michael, I'm hearing over 1 million cell phone accounts have been canceled in China. I've read could be 14 million. I don't know how truthful that is. I would not doubt it. But I don't know. And so, yeah, I would definitely prepare for power outages. Okay, Deborah Bowie is asking, Mike, when you say prepare for power outages, does that mean generators or exactly what? That's going to depend exactly on your situation. Like, are you in an apartment in Manhattan or, in downtown Los Angeles where you can't have, a generator in your condo or something? Or are you out in the boondocks of Arkansas or Oklahoma or Florida where you can have a giant, megawatt generator that runs on 5 diesel engines and you can run, half the city? I mean, it depends on many things. Solar power, it obviously will work. I've read that people are having problems getting solar panels now, for instance, in Puerto Rico, in different places. So many messages coming in from Hong Kong right now. I'm just going to turn it over. But certainly be prepared, whether that's lots of candles and batteries for the immediate stuff. But if you need to keep your freezer running and that sort of thing, then you're going to have some other way to do this. Hello, Gladys. Okay, Monique is saying, Margarita Bernath, no evidence yet of any shortages of food in Italy. It will be more a matter of a shortage of money. Keep in mind, as I've been saying for a long time, when these things happen, they're often quite sudden, right? If you have a breakdown of food, you may not get much notice. Like I was talking with one friend yesterday in Hong Kong, and he said, you know, he loves Cheetos, and he talked about Cheetos. Like, I noticed that Cheetos are out. They're not restocking Cheetos, but that's a minor sign. But when, for instance, when the stores have been picked clean in Bangkok or across the United States or across Europe and other places at times, it happens suddenly. It happens like, but why would I buy food? You won't believe how many messages, maybe you would, how many messages I've gotten where, you keep telling me to go shopping for food, but the stores are completely filled and nobody's really shopping. I'm like, hello, Rambo. Get it now while there's nobody shopping and the shelves are full. Get long shelf life stuff. Worst case scenario is I'm completely wrong, and which I hope, and that there won't be any food shortages at all. But you still don't want to keep going shopping all the time because you can get infected, right? And bring it back to your beehive, back to your family, back to your office, whatever. Shop and get all that you need so that you don't have to keep going back all the time, right? And reinfecting or taking chances on getting infected, right? And so, but again, so many people, so many messages like, why would I shop? You say go get shopping now, but everything's filled up. Yeah, and I told them the same thing on masks. Back in January, I was saying, get masks now, get masks now, get masks now. And people are like, but there's masks in all the shops. I don't need masks. They're everywhere. Yeah, we all know how that played out. Now we have governments like the United States government asking people, or various governments around the United States, because we have state and county and city governments as well, right? And over in Europe, asking people to make their own mask and to even donate masks. If I were in America, they would be asking me to donate these masks. They would be asking me to donate masks, right? And this is the thing. Preppers like me who already had masks, I didn't have to buy anything. Those 600 masks that I bought to give away, I didn't need a single mask, right? So we already know what we're going to do as preppers. We're not giving anything away that we've prepped for years and invested in. We're not going to give it away because that is part of our plan, right? That's part of the battle plan. And so people that did not prepare, you still have a chance in most places to stock up. Once you get hungry and you start breaking into the neighbor's home because you didn't stock up, that's why they have guns, right? Stock up now. This is really serious. This is it's no joke. And so let's start answering as many. Dave Cottrell says, second wave is now being reported in Beijing. I think we need to delineate between what we would call the second wave based on what they're doing and based on what virologists would call a second wave. Because that second wave that I think we would have to have virologists, I just read what they say constantly. But there is the biological second wave that could come later, probably will. And then there's the second wave that is man-made insofar as we quarantine, right? We quarantine and then unleash the bottle. See, this is a problem that we may have in dragging this out. If we quarantine, if we do half measures, we just stretch out the pain and our economy is destroyed even longer, right? I mean, our economy is badly damaged, right? I'm talking the U.S. economy and the Chinese economies, which means world economies are severely damaged. Italian economy it's basically got two broken legs. I mean, it's not going to run the next race, right? And so Jason M says, those masks don't do shit anyway. You know what? You should just take yourself out of the gene pool. Seriously, because you're getting prepared to do that. You are absolutely wrong in every sense you are wrong. These masks do work. They absolutely do work. But anyway, with the second wave that Dave is talking about is, the virologists and epidemiologists have been warning about this, is that when you put everybody in quarantine and then the virus, the R naught decreases to 1 or less than 1. So it's not, it's flattened out. or even decreased. And then you let everybody out before there's herd immunity, and then it just spreads again. So you're just going to go like this, right? As opposed to, there's many strategies to handle this. One is just letting it burn through, which is like, Germany and UK and some others apparently may have experimented with that recently. Yeah. Guess what? I didn't hoard shit, Megan. I didn't hoard anything. I've got enough for me and mine. That's it. It's not called hoarding. Hoarding is when you go at the last minute and buy everything off the shelves. When you buy it, like, say, 10 years in advance, back, when you can get them for 50 cents a mask, that's not hoarding. That's common sense, right? But in the past, we're called crazy, right? Well, it's called common sense. And I got my mask when they were good, when the getting was cheap. Now we see Governor Cuomo, we're up in New York, and a lot of people are like, wow, he's showing great leadership. And I've said that as well. But then I start to pay more and more attention to what he's doing and saying, and I realize he's only just now scouting out for hospitals. He's only just now. They don't have masks. They don't even have basic stuff like enough gloves. And he said in one of his talks, they're competing against other states. Their masks that used to cost 85 cents each now cost like $7 or $8 each. And he's like talking about nationalizing, companies to make product. I'm like, hold on, do not give up your companies to the federal government at this point. Actually, this is a time when this is something that economists have talked about for years. During crisis like this, we probably should let the market set the price and don't keep the price artificially low at 85 cents each or whatever. Why? Because if the price is $7 each, it does many different things. One is it makes you think, do I really need to go out today and spend that $8? Or should I just stay right on home? I got these at a really cheap price. But I don't even know what it was, but it was more expensive already. It was because I bought enough to give them out, but it was already like $1.25 each or something. But I got these to give away to people. And so I've still got a few left that I'm giving away. But if we let the market set the price and now it's say $8 or $10, for a mask, you'll think twice before you go out with it. So that will decrease demand, obviously, and it'll decrease people from buying them all off the shelves. And also, when the price is that high, it increases. I mean, we all know how economics work, right? Even 18-year-olds will get this. It's just like, if you're suddenly getting, such a high price for it, you have all the reason in the world to stop what you're doing and start making masks, whether it's for you to use individually or stop your, Hanes underwear factory and start making masks out of that underwear material. So, yeah. So it's very important. Let the market set the price on these things. On these ventilators, what did he say? They usually cost, I don't know, $16,000, I think he said. And now they're up to, I don't know, 30 or 40. What did he say? The Governor Cuomo, but he's, complaining about that. I'm like, well, how are you going to get all these things very quickly without the funding? When some company wants to retool to make ventilators quickly, they have to hire a lot of really serious people. They have to retool. All these things cost money. It costs money for people to do these things quickly. And so let the market set the prices. I know that sounds hard. And I grew up in Florida where hurricanes, and I've seen all kinds of natural disasters. And I hate it when people jack up the prices artificially. But if you let the market set the price, you don't have people going out with 5 carts full of toilet paper. They'll be like, man, that thing's $5. You know what? Maybe I should use a little less toilet paper. Maybe I should, not use a whole freaking, a fistful of toilet paper when I hit the toilet. You know what I'm saying? If you let the market set the price, you'll get more toilet paper to places that are paying a higher price, and people will buy less of it and they'll use less of it. I think we should re-examine this, artificially depressing prices. I think it's a huge idea. Oh, hey, Deuce 4. Jason. Wow, if you're Deuce 4 and I said something bad to you, I will make a provisional apology, but I don't. But these masks do work because I have huge respect for Deuce 4 soldiers. But let me see. Hey, J Lamb, don't think Michael is listening to China. If I understand it as the same meaning, he is more like reporting and criticizing. I don't know what that's referring to, because actually some of the way I see your comments here, I don't necessarily see you responding to somebody. To me, they just come in a big long line of comments. So if you're responding to somebody else, like, these masks don't work, you may have been referring to something else, like I don't know. But so, and same with Jay, you're probably responding to somebody and I can't see what you're responding to. Robert Stevenson, I purchased a respirator after working the campfire in Paradise with search and rescue. Now I wear it whenever I go shopping. I purchased an N95 mask and lots of rice and beans. These are now going to my kids. Good. I want to say it again. Buy food. Have enough water. At least 4 months supply. And these will depend on your situation. If you live up in the mountains of Colorado and there's, a 365 day a year stream running water, fresh water, then obviously you don't necessarily need to worry about your water going out. You might have to be able to filter it, of course, or heat it, or somehow purify it, but you won't need to worry about the water itself. But if you live in downtown New York City, that could be a different deal. And so, my light went out. So for whatever reason, so the white balance has changed. If I put my hat on, it might change the white balance for you. So sorry about that. I'm trying to answer questions here. That's why that's why this delay. I've just scrolled to the very bottom. Hey, Mark, stepping back. By the way, some of these comments that I'm seeing, you might not see because this is going out to multiple channels, YouTube and Facebook channels. And if you know anybody that has really busy, Facebook or YouTube channels, and they want to get my feeds, tell them to private message me, and we can feed it out to their channels as well. I can feed it out to more and more channels. Just tell them to private message me and put feed out to whatever channel, and we'll just add them to the and we can get it out to more and more channels. World Dunlap saying, how do you define overprice? Is it cost plus expenses, the slippery slope of government? No, I just let the market set the price is the smart thing to do. I think, because it reduces hoarding. I mean, look at the people who go in there and buy all that extra toilet paper. I mean, seriously, when you've seen that happen, when you see the people with those big, 2 and 3 cartfuls, do they ever have that look to them about like somebody you trust? I mean, they're going in there, they got like flip flops on, and they got, where they got holes all in their clothes, they're shouting at people. You know what I mean? There's that sort. I mean, I've seen a lot of those videos. I don't know. If the price is higher on the toilet paper, then they'll just buy less. And it's easy to do because in today's marketplace, the computers can instantly change prices, like at Walmart or whatever. They can have that happen from corporate, right? Or just algorithmically change prices. And so, just let them set the price. Now, but you've got Cuomo instantly, Governor Cuomo up in New York, instantly talking about, hey, we have to pay all this high price for these masks. Normally they're only 85 cents each. Well, hello, why would I trust you to start taking over everything when you didn't make good? You're New York. You're super, super, super rich. You're the epicenter of world trade. New York. New York. You know what I mean? It's like, and you don't have enough masks, and you expect us to just give up everything and expect you'll do a better job with that? I'm sorry. I want to support leadership, and we must support them on certain points, but we cannot let them take too much. They will take too much, and it'll be very difficult to get it back from them. Don't let them have it. Don't let them have it. Do not give up your weapons under any circumstances at this time. This is like a showdown moment. If they come for your weapons, use them. Do not let anybody take your weapon at this point. If you're American, you've got a right to have that weapon unless you don't have a right to have it. For instance, if you're a felon, that sort of thing. And it'll be interesting to see what we do with our prisons. You know, the United States has what, 2 or 3 million people in prisons. That's a lot of people, and we are not Japan. The United States has some ultra violent people, like super mega violence, like you've never seen before, outside of like ISIS. You know what I mean? I don't really want these people out on the streets. Even if they get the disease, they should just be treated in prison. Do not release them. Only release nonviolent prisoners. And I wonder what good that's going to do anyway. They'll just, I don't know. I mean, but they need to make that decision at the professional and political levels about, whether or not it's better to release nonviolent prisoners or not. I see President Trump has been talking about, or people have been bringing it up to him. Yeah, I'm looking for any questions that I can answer. Tricia is saying they're beginning to let people free from prison already. If they're nonviolent, I would tend to let them out. That's my initial instinct, but I would want to hear what the law enforcement and prison, I would want to have like a roundtable discussion with them, like a come to Jesus moment. Like, what's the smart thing to do here? I'll make the decision today, but I want to hear everybody at this table, say their piece. Who should we release and when? Obviously, the when would be like right now. If we're going to release anybody, we should do it now. But so that's a very interesting situation. Virginia prisons inmates starting to make masks for prisoners and guards. Of course, the prisoners will start doing it. They can make stuff out of they'll take their socks and make all sorts of stuff out of the string. Have you seen some of the stuff prisoners can make? They can take the most trivial items and make really interesting stuff out of them. For instance, they'll take their socks and make crosses out of them so that when they go before the judge, they got a cross hanging off their neck. Looks like they've just found Jesus in prison, or at least they want the judge to think so. Let's see what John Frank says. I was a correctional officer, so many inmates are in prison for drug-related charges. I'd let them out. From what I've seen personally, they have good conscience. I would tend to agree instantly, unless they're like a massive drug smuggler who got caught with like 3 tons of cocaine. But if it's like somebody that got caught with some marijuana, I'd be like, are you kidding? What are they in prison? Let them out. You know what I mean? Instantly out. But if it's something like a huge drug smuggling, no way. You're going to have to take your chances with the virus in prison. But if it's somebody that's just something minor, I would certainly let them out instantly. With the agreement that at some point I might call you up and drop all charges. Okay, yeah. Interesting now that Maddie got tested last Wednesday and still hasn't. Let me see if Maddie sent any messages since I've been on. Let's see. No message here from Maddie. All right. Hopefully she's good. She may have gone back to bed. But again, I'm not on the John Batchelor show this morning with Gordon Chang and John Batchelor and maybe Thaddeus McCotter, because John had one of the engineers in their studio has tested positive in New York. And so that's why that's out. But John sent me a message earlier. I love the John Batchelor show. Been recommending it for years. And last year when I was in Hong Kong, Gordon Chang asked me if I would come on. I was like, absolutely. I love the show. And plus, I read all your work too. And it's funny. Gordon Chang comes up and he introduces himself. He's like, "Hello, I'm Gordon Chang." I'm like, "Hello, I know who you are. I read all your work." It's it's like that was kind of funny actually. Uh, let's see. Hello, you and Kip Moon. I read every message I see from you and Kit Moon because he's always accurate. Doug, Steve Hilton explains the open business reasoning. Where are you right now, Ewan? Sometimes you seem to move around. Um, yeah, John Batchelor's great. I hope he's okay as well. You can see on news reports that he has been sick. Let's see if that's Maddie. It's from more messages from Hong Kong. Hey, my Hong Konger friends, if you're watching this, unless it's super important, I'm not going to answer you now. As you can see, I'm online. Let's see. Bradley Nauman. I made a chessboard in basic training out of paper. Yeah, you're like me, man. You're like a chess monkey, man. I used to love to play chess. I started sort of a chess club with my Green Beret friends when I was still in the Army. And actually, they all took to it, too. Everybody started loving to play chess. Mike Griffith says, Thailand going to try to shut you down at some point. Seems like your logic may not fit their narrative. I don't know. They could. I know somebody, I was talking with a friend yesterday in Dubai, and he said somebody just got arrested. A Westerner just got arrested in Dubai for flaunting the quarantine on like Instagram or something. So, well, I mean, flouting, I like Dubai actually, and I love Thailand. But let me tell you, I haven't seen a government yet except for Taiwan. South Korea seems to be doing great. Singapore and Hong Kong. Hong Kong government's completely screwed up. The reason that the Hong Kongers have to now had low rate is clearly due to the Hong Kongers and their fear of SARS. They've been through SARS 1. But also, I wonder if a lot's being covered up in Hong Kong. It's really easy to just label this as the flu or something else. It's too easy. And remember, the Hong Kong government that is now in charge is very, it's a Siamese twin with the. Oh, Yuan is still in Singapore. It's a Siamese twin with, Beijing. And so the Hong Kong government's done actually a terrible job, but the Hong Kong people have not. They've done, but it's still going to hit Hong Kong. You can see the numbers starting to edge up now, and it's quite clear actually that Hong Kong is going to get hit, and when it does, it'll break like an avalanche. Is my thought, based on watching all these other countries go, and I know I'm referring to Hong Kong as a country, and that angers some people. Yeah, you and Kit Moon is saying, Jason, Michael has said he thinks CDC is lying about the mask being ineffective to cover up that they failed to stockpile enough. It's clear that they're lying. It's utterly clear that they're lying. It's like Mount Everest tall clear that they're lying. It's like they didn't stockpile masks. We know masks work, period. They work, period. There is no question about it that they work. Are they perfect? Are they like, is it like getting into a spacesuit, for a spacewalk? No, it's not. But like your body armor that you've worn in wars, right? Does your body armor work? Sure, it works. If you get shot in the helmet, how many people have you were induced for? You've seen some people shot in the helmet. Usually stops the bullet, right? They get knocked out. Sorry, my dog Barney is barking at something, but I don't see anybody coming into my house. But if you get shot in the face, game over. My body armor didn't work, but if you get shot in the chest with an AK, you get knocked down but you're good to go. So body armor works and it doesn't work. It depends, right? It depends on where you get shot. And likewise with, what you get shot with too. You got your nice body armor on and you get hit with a Dishka in the chest. Guess what? You're dead. It's going to go through the body armor, through your body and out the back plate and then kill your buddy, right? That's a Dishka. You get hit in the chest with an AK-47 from 300 meters, you're just going to get knocked down and you're going to be like, that hurt. I've seen guys get hit with it. I'm sure you have too. So does body armor work? Absolutely. That's why we wear it. Does it work against everything? Absolutely not. Should everybody wear body armor? Not when you're swimming across a river, but you should certainly, as some people found out in Mosul the hard way, and rest in peace. But when they went out of that Zodiac on that mission. Let's see. That wasn't Deuce 4. That was before. Let's see. Zach Callis is saying Dallas Police Department issued a directive not to respond to shoplifting, burglaries, and car break-ins. They are slowly coming apart at the seams. Yeah, and you know what that means. You know what that means. That means it's open shop. And there's already other police departments been doing that for a couple of weeks, right? It's been quite a while. Mask absolutely work. Oh, you were up in 2-7 Cav. 2-7, man. It's great to hope y'all are doing fine. You were really an important part of the war up there in 2000 and that was 2007. That was really important. You were, as I told your command, I think he's in Vietnam actually now, or he was working for Coca-Cola. Because I talked with him, communicated with him a few times, but your actions in Mosul in 2007 were, I would tell him back then, I was like, you can't afford to lose Mosul or even be seen as losing Mosul at this point, because the war is turning and everybody's watching Mosul, and you guys did really well. You guys did really well. And I think extremely highly of you, your whole 2-7 Cav. Ward Smith, my childhood friend, the 6-foot social distancing is CDC's substitute for masks. It's crystal clear they are lying about masks not needed. The mask absolutely work. We all know that. The mask definitely work. Let's see. Mary Ellen Davis. Hi from New York, Hudson Valley. Michael Jan. I can never pronounce that name. Poughkeepsie, New York. McDonald's closed due to staff having coronavirus. Chess is an awesome game. Yeah, chess is an awesome game. I used to play all the time. Madly. And when we use chess as an analogy for things like against this virus, I even brought this up in a podcast about a week ago, or in war, it's not really a great analogy for war or for this virus, because when you play chess, white always opens and white gets one move. Everybody sits down to the table. Both parties sit down. It's only 2 players. You're evenly matched. We might not be evenly mentally matched, but it's 1 player against 1 player. But when it comes to like this virus, the virus gets to start playing the game for 2 months before you realize you're even playing the game, right? Or it could have been 3 years. How long was this virus even out there? The 0 patient was November 17th. Unless that's changed. The first known patient, to my knowledge, was November 17th. But really, there could have been unknown patients out there for years. It could have been, slowly spreading exponentially, but there's so few cases and so spread apart that it's just like, and maybe it mutated. I don't know. But anyway, the bottom line is then when it started making the more moves it makes, the more moves it's able to make. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, now you've seized the center of the board. Now you can make 5 moves all at once. And meanwhile, we've got governments all over the world going, is this actually a chess game? Oh, we got the chess game under control. No problem. Hey, let's go to the game. Let's go to a football game. Everybody should go out to the pubs and the theaters. Don't change your life for this. French guy saying that, Macron. The Canadians, Americans, our leadership, no problem. Everything's going to be fine. We're not going to play that virus game. No way. And the next thing you know, the virus is making 4,000 moves per hour, and then 40,000 moves per hour. And then the next thing you know, it's a year from now and 50 million people are dead. And so, and there you go. So yeah, chess is not a good analogy for war for the same reasons, but it's a fun game. Jack Hodges saying the cops are being told that all over they need them to lock down the cities. This is going to get bad. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and like for years, people like me that have said, "Do not give up your weapons." Here, I see Maddie just sent a message. Let's see what she's saying. Uh, After this is Maddie's in Denver. She's sick. She may have the virus. She's been waiting since last Wednesday to get even the results from the test. That's the United States of America, Denver, Colorado, like almost the middle of America, right? Maddie's saying after panic crowds swarmed Denver liquor stores and dispensaries, mayor reverses order to close both. Yeah. Uh, xenophobia. People often put it down, but now you see xenophobia happening everywhere. Like, Germany closing borders, all these countries closing borders. Is it xenophobia because you're from the next village? Is it xenophobia because you're from the next apartment? No, it's not, is it? It's actually not. And now we see in Hong Kong, many of the people that, they finally closing the bars. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous that they actually have to close the bars to start with. People should just not be going. And secondly, that huge amounts of like white people keep going to bars. It's clear. I mean, it was like and the same here in Thailand. And so when some of the Thais, I see a lot of huge amounts of Thais not wearing masks still, by the way. And so it's not like all the Thais are wearing masks. That's bullshit. I mean, their health, no matter what the health minister says, it's completely untrue. And so, but huge numbers of white people here not wearing masks in Thailand, just like they weren't doing in Hong Kong, right? And so obviously Hong Kongers and Thais and others and me who wear masks, you can be like, what, you think you shouldn't be wearing a mask? What's wrong with you? I mean, you're walking around with basically a suicide vest on. You can cack off at any moment, but it's like a silent vest, right? And and um, and so this is where, now Hong Kong is shutting, foreigners are not able to come in. Kiwi land, New Zealand just shut down, yesterday, I think. Is this all xenophobia? See where xenophobia comes from? When my family came to America in 1609, actually 1610, they got shipwrecked on Bermuda first. It was my mother's side, the Easons. They brought diseases down, the Spanish first, and then other waves of people like measles and smallpox and all these, and it wasn't intentional infections, common cold, whatever they brought over, and apparently brought venereal disease back. This is unclear, but this is what it looks like, and basically wiped out most of the Indians in America from just diseases. It wasn't guns and muskets and swords; it was diseases. So should they have had xenophobia, the Indians in the United States? Well, I would think so, because if their immune systems were significantly stronger, we may have never really gotten a foothold in America. The whole world may be quite different now. So the idea that xenophobia is like baseless and based on ignorance is ignorant. Xenophobia is based on biological experience, people coming in with, diseases and all sorts of other things. All right. But am I xenophobic? Look, I've lived outside of the United States for more than half of my life. So if I'm xenophobic, how will I spend so much time around Asia and the Middle East? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've been the Xeno. I am the Xeno. It's like, so there you go. Question about Donald Babadelier. Question: we should ask leftists, why wasn't there any outrage about the Asians being discriminated against for admission into universities like Harvard? Why all the outrage about xenophobia and anti-Asian sentiment now? I wonder how much of it's true. I mean, I'm sure it's happening, because a couple of my Japanese and Thai friends in America are like, there is a little bit going on, but none of them have personally experienced it. Because you know how this can get. Like, one case can happen here and one case over there, and it's not really that. Like yesterday, I went out to just do a reconnaissance and to see how everybody's doing. Is like, are the stores still open? Many stores closed early. Grocery stores still open. And I talked with a pharmacist about something, and she was, This is very uncommon in Thailand. Very uncommon. She talked badly to me and talked down to me, and I was wearing full kit. I was masked up better than she was. I was wearing gloves. I was very polite, of course. I was wearing eye protection, and she was very rude to me. That's just, I can't remember the last time that happened in Thailand. Maybe she was having a bad day. In fact, I don't remember that ever happening in Thailand. And yesterday she was quite rude to me. I don't know why. Was it xenophobia? I don't know. Was it something because at least one member of the high level Thai government has said that he's called us dirty Farangs, which means dirty white foreigners. Farang doesn't mean just foreigner. For those who think they know, it doesn't. Farang means white foreigners. It doesn't mean just foreigners. For instance, they don't call African foreigners Farangs. They call them Africans. They don't call Chinese Farangs. They call them Chinese. They don't call Japanese Farangs. They call them Japanese. White foreigners of any species, Norwegian, American, or whatever, are called Farangs, right? We had a high government official call us dirty Farangs. But to be true, a lot of dirty Farangs are not wearing masks. It's very clear, but a lot are. But a lot of Thais aren't wearing masks either. So there you go. All right. I'm trying to answer some questions. Okay. Megan Niece. Yeah, I have 4 little ones. I think it might be another whole mouth to feed. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. So I didn't, because you're probably responding to somebody. Tom Willingham is saying, I noticed you on, but not on YouTube, Michael. Yeah. Actually, when I was going to start this live feed, there was a notice that the live feed is not going to stream out to YouTube because I'm using 2 pieces of software to reach you. One is called Restream, and Restream goes out to multiple platforms. And now, numerous different days, it said it's not feeding out to YouTube, and that Restream is in contact with YouTube. So that's why it's not going to YouTube right now. Yeah, I should be demanding a refund for, why do I even have Restream if it's not going out? You know what I mean? That's why I got it. But it appears to be going out to the Facebook channels. But I can't tell actually what Facebook channels that you're coming to me from, because this is going out to about 5 or 6 Facebook channels. And again, if you want me to start feeding out to your Facebook channel or to your YouTube, hit me up. And then we have to do a few things. I think you have to give me administrator rights or something like that. And, which you might not want. I'm not sure how we do it. I think there's a way of doing this that you don't give me your back end. I think there's a way to do it that I don't see your comments. I'm not sure. But anyway, research it before you contact me if you want to do it. And I'm not that I can't even read all of my own comments anyway, by the way, which is doesn't make me happy because I know that there's really important comments in there that I there's too much coming in. Let's see. Zach Callis. Looters are going to be in for a surprise here in Texas. Going to be Koreatown all over again. Defend yourself. That's it. You are 9/11. 9/11 is you. So when you buy a shotgun, buy a shovel. This is no kidding. And if somebody breaks into your house, if you're from Florida, that's an easy solution. I don't know what state you're from. If you're from New York, you're expected to give up your life and get raped and stuff like that. So if you're from New York or you're from Massachusetts and, all these rules have been fine with you for here on out, that, hey, we should not have the ability to defend ourselves. Well, there you go. Wayshawn says, you are going out to YouTube channel, Michael. It's possible Tom is getting... Actually, I just see a comment from YouTube. Yeah, like Tommy Barrios is saying, I have you on YouTube and Facebook. Huh. Let's see. All right. Thank you, Wayshawn and Tommy, for saying that. Uh, right. Let me continue to take as many questions as possible. But again, if you want me to feed this out to your channels, I'm able to do that. Then it'll go out to your readership as well. Uh, but here's Andrew Cuomo. This is on his Twitter feed. I'm calling on the federal government to nationalize the medical supply chain. The federal government should immediately use the Defense Production Act to order companies to make gowns, masks, and gloves. To order companies to make gowns, masks, and gloves. Because, and Cuomo said on his speech, because they're costing like, $7 or $8. Resist. This is the time to resist, because every time like this is when they try to take more control. 9/11, getting more control. Right now, getting more control, right? Resist and say no. Let the prices drive the market. You've got the money. If you're paying $8 a mask, you'll get the mask. Companies will make the mask. They will give you the supply will increase, and then the price will go down. No, resist. If they want to make a resistance, this is how you do it. And now's not the time to make a resistance. We need to be working teamwork, but do not give up your rights. Do not. This is why we have a Second Amendment and a First Amendment right now. This is the time. This is that time that our forefathers had in mind when they made First and Second Amendment. It is right now. Don't give up your rights, and don't let them take your stuff. Nope. Pay, not nationalize. Just pay, and then the price will go down as more people make them. You got the money. Don't pretend you don't. Rooftop Koreans. Rooftop Koreans refers to the people that don't know. It's when the riots happened in Los Angeles, and there was nobody there to protect the Koreans except the Koreans themselves. And they got their weapons, and they went into their parking lots, and they went on their rooftops and inspired Americans to defend their businesses. And so now we call them rooftop Koreans. And it's a high compliment, by the way. It's not an insult at all. It's like people are like, be a rooftop Korean. When they say be a rooftop, if you hear an American say be a rooftop Korean, that means defend your property. You don't have to give it up. Not in Florida. In some states, you're expected to just, he wants to come in and, steal all my stuff. So I'm not able to defend myself. So have fun. I'll call the police. How's that going to work out for you in Massachusetts now when the police aren't going to come, right? And everybody, you're not, and they've made it so draconian that it's very difficult to defend yourself. There's no castle doctrine in Massachusetts. I've lived there. And people are just so happy in Massachusetts to give up their rights. Not everybody. There's a lot of great people in Massachusetts. I love Massachusetts. But at the same time, they've given up the right to defend themselves. And this is the time you really need it. This is the time you have to have a credible threat in your hand to keep people out of your home if they didn't prepare themselves, or they just know the police aren't going to come, because who's going to come? Who's going to come if you call 911 right now? If you're in New York. Yeah, that's right. Sang Pak. April 29th, 1992. And since that time, Koreans live not in infamy, but Americans like me, we were like, go Koreans, go. You defended yourself, right? You were facing, economic ruin. They could take your women and rape them or whatever. And you're like, come and get it. We got shotguns. We got rifles. We got pistols. Come and get it. And not only that, you stuck together. That's important, because if we don't stick together, even if you got a weapon, it's very important to organize the people around you, your neighborhood, your family, whatever. And the Koreans stuck together, and nobody could touch you. And so that's what it made. Is everybody should take a lesson from that. Wei Shan saying, I'll try to explain the genies thing. The genies thing is for when this power supply is interrupted. Why would it be interrupted? Power supply workers might get sick. There might be unforeseen other disasters that could disrupt the power supply. If you get stocked up on food and they're in the freezer, you're going to want to have some backup power supply to keep the freezer running. Absolutely. And keep in mind, too, we've known for years that our grid is highly vulnerable to cyber attacks, right? And our communications networks, which is, linked with the grid, right? With the power grid. So our hospitals can be taken offline right now they have generators and all that. We know that. But if you knock out our power grid right now with a cyber attack, that in and of itself could cause millions of Americans to die. Just that. Obviously, hospitals have emergency generators. I don't know how good they are, because now we're getting tested on how good we are with just this simple thing. And hospitals coast to coast apparently don't even have masks. We have hospitals putting out social media things. Local people, please give us your mask. We need them more than you do. Hello, you can't even make up this stuff. It's like, so will their generators really work? Heck if I know. We might find out soon. But I can tell you one thing. If a foreign country takes out our grid right now with a cyber attack, the president should be crystal clear, no matter who it is. If North Korea or China or Russia, and we know you have nuclear weapons, we know you have hydrogen bombs, if we can trace that back to you, we will initiate a nuclear war. We will wipe out your whole country. If you hit us with a cyber attack right now, we will absolutely destroy your country with no notice. Dead. All major cities gone with hydrogen bombs. It needs to be crystal clear. Do not attack our grid with viruses, or we will kill you all. It needs to be crystal clear. Even if you've got nuclear weapons and can counterstrike, we're not going to go down alone. We're not going to go down like that, because if they take out our grid at a time like this, it is going to ripple across everything, including food production. We could have famines, unbelievable numbers. Millions of Americans could die if we get into a cyber attack at this point. If anybody hits us with a cyber attack now, we should make it crystal clear. There will be no rebuilding plan for what we do to you. And it doesn't matter who you are or where you are or how many people die. We will not suffer a debilitating cyber attack without absolutely destroying your country. Off the map. It needs to be crystal clear. That's how we avoid that happening. And it needs to be, President Trump should get out there and say it just like I just said it. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. And we know you can counterstrike, but you've already a WMD. If you take down our grid, it eventually will, our satellites, everything will be blind. Eventually we'll be blind. Not to mention internally, leading ultimately to famines. If somebody attacks our grid, we kill their country, period. And we do it instantly. As soon as we can figure out, definitely it came from whoever, jets will be in the air. It'll be like, no way. Very crystal clear. Dizzy Van Patten. Yes, we did. That power outage lasted 4 to 5 days. It was brutal, hot in August. We figured the concrete basement floor was enough to come. Yeah. Do not do a cyber attack on us. If I were the president, I would actually make just like a 5-minute speech. We realize we have cyber vulnerabilities. We're watching everything, and you don't know. If we can figure out that it came from you, we're going to destroy your whole country. And we're going to do it like within hours. It won't be like, oh, please stop your cyber attack. It'll be like, no, it'll be B-2 bombers. It'll be instant, and it'll be irrevocable. There'll be no turning back. Yeah, look, you see, I know you would not like me in charge, but at the same time, if they sense that you're actually deadly serious about that, it won't happen. This is called keeping it from happening by being very clear about what our response would be. If you're very clear that that is your response, then you will get to this level. You know what I mean? You won't have to deal with it because the United States needs to make crystal clear we're not going to go down alone if you take out our grid. We will not go down like that. And it needs to be crystal clear. Madeline is worse. Her conditions are worse. Let me see if but I saw her leave a message earlier, and we've been communicating online, but I haven't talked with her on the phone today. Let's see here. All right. More messages from Hong Kong. I'll answer all those Hong Kong messages when I go offline. Let's see. Yeah, deterrence. You won't have to pull the trigger if they know you will pull the trigger. That's the idea of it. I don't want a nuclear war. That's almost the last thing I want. The last thing I want is to watch the United States undergo a cyber attack, which will first, that takes out our electrical grid, right? Which could happen right now. Or takes out our satellites, right? Or both. And then that's it. United States literally goes into the dark ages. I mean, we're literally, literally probably tens of millions of people. It'll be road warrior stuff. I don't know how there. If this were the 1800s or even 100 years ago, it's a different story. We have fewer people. They're a lot more living out on farms and hardier in many ways. Now we've had urbanization. We've got huge amounts of people living in cities, cannot feed themselves, and cannot do. What are they going to do when there's no water? How long will you be able to last with no water? How long will you be able to last with no electricity? All the hospitals will eventually go down. All communications eventually would break down at that point. It would be road warrior stuff. It would be the end of the United States. That's why the president needs to be crystal clear at this moment in time. If somebody does a cyber attack on us, we're going to destroy you, utterly destroy, without rebuilding, without apology. Let's see. Greg Owens is saying, if we have to make our own mask, which is better, paper towel mask or a mask out of a t-shirt fabric? I don't know the answer to that. I think maybe other people have suggested like vacuum filters. Those HEPA filters might be good, or something like that. But also, I think this would be. I think just this would. I mean, because a lot of it's just from particles, right? I mean, that keeps particles from. If you sneeze, it's obviously not going to shoot across the room if you've got even a handkerchief across your face. Anything at all, even a bandana is going to keep, if somebody's talking, their spittle from hitting you on the lip and going right into your mouth, or you shooting out projectile spit as well. So anything is better than nothing. Yeah. The CCP right now, Chinese Communist Party, is using this as they're going across Italy and different places, Iran or Iraq and Iran, and trying to say, look at us, we're going to help you with all these masks and that sort of thing. They're trying to obviously, get their way out of what they've just done, which was watch this disease, incubate until it came out as a pterodactyl instead of a little chicken that they could have killed in the nest and we never would have heard about it. They let it come out as like a flock of pterodactyls and then a whole cave full of pterodactyls. And now we got millions of them, flying around the world. Wayshawn says, I'm for renewable energy, but there's always be a place for fossil fuels at this time because it isn't at the mercy of weather conditions. Yeah. That's true. And well, we've got another thing going on right now, which is the price fight between Saudi Arabia and Russia, which obviously is damaging our fracking industry. Uh, yeah, let's see. Oh, let's see. Tommy's saying Carrie Lam BS session live on Stan News in Hong Kong. Lovely. Wasn't she crying again yesterday? You know what? I hate it when I see leaders crying all the time. I hate it. I hate it. I was watching this military officer. She was on the bridge or whatever when one of our ships ran into another ship and killed numerous people. And she was at her trial, and I was like, okay, you're a military officer. Do not cry. Because I don't know why, but it seems like women will do it more than men when they're in a situation. They like Yingluck used to be prime minister of Thailand. She had like a switch behind her ear. She'd turn the tears on. Carrie Lam does it too. Like, tears. Oh, I feel sad for you. You're crying. It's like, listen, the moment you cry and you're like a military officer or a leader, and you're out in front of everybody and you're clearly doing it for sympathy, I'm like, not only are you not getting sympathy, you've just lost a lot of face. This naval officer, she's up there in the courtroom and starts crying. Yeah, you messed up. Don't cry. Be a military officer. Yeah, say yeah. I made a terrible mistake. People died. There's no time for that. You're just making me think that you shouldn't be an officer, period. Let's see. Is there any new information coming from China? Jack Hodges is asking. Yeah, I don't trust it. That's the problem with China. They say they're coming back online now and they've reduced their cases, but how would we know? We keep seeing these reports about 13 or 14 or 15 million phones are now offline. I don't know. It could be just one report that's being repeated. I don't know. I mean, we'll figure it out sooner or later. They can't hide it forever because China is much more open than North Korea is. It's obviously closed, but information leaks out of China massively. Yeah, Lois is saying, I hate tears as weapons. It's bullshit. It actually turns me against them. It actually makes me think you're trying to manipulate me, and I hate that. That's one thing. Like when I go to India and all the people, not all the people, but there's a subset that are constantly trying to manipulate you to do things. And as soon as that's why people are like, you never fall for the scams. It's like, because I hate being manipulated. You know what I mean? And I have a reaction to it. You know what I mean? That's why I can study all these cults and go with them and live with them and do all sorts of stuff. And I've got like vaccines against joining cults. You know what I mean? Because I hate the manipulation thing. Samuel Gerstel, Michael, did you watch the White House task force? What's wrong with Trump saying the country needs to go back to work when doctors are saying no? I didn't see that one. Can you post a link to it? I didn't see. I was just before I went online, I was watching him talk about some things, but I didn't see that. Cecilia Thompson says, I'm female and I agree. Emotional leaders make me nervous. As I used to say to my kid, any blood and bone? No. Then you are fine. Walk it off. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, if I see a military officer cry, I'll never respect him or her again. I'll be like, this one's unstable or so manipulative. It's like, part of leadership is obviously acting and showing that let's go forward, and acting might be doing, not really just acting, like, leadership showing courage by going into the fire first. That's not acting. It's partly acting by going for, like Eric Carilla, he's a general now. He would always, is he acting? I mean, he was in combat, always out front, deuce four. He finally got shot right in front of me 3 times, and he kept fighting. That wasn't acting. But part of leadership is showmanship, as you well know. But then he actually walked the walk too. I mean, he's straight up warrior. And actually, when we talk about martial law, I mean, I know some of the generals. I don't know all the generals. We got like 1,000 or 900 and something flag officers, right? It would be generals, admirals, and that sort of thing. I don't know them all. I know some, right? And the ones that I know, I'm not afraid of. I've never sensed that they'll be despotic or, start shooting artillery shots downtown in Los Angeles. You know what I mean? They're like, I can't imagine Eric Carilla doing that, or quite a few other generals I know. I just don't, no, they're not going to start shooting. They're not going to start rolling tanks down the streets and shooting, into people's houses. They're not going to do that. So they don't, since I know so many people in the military and know a lot of senior officers, I just don't, I don't see that. I don't fear that the martial law as much as some other people do. And don't get me wrong, I don't want it. I don't want martial law at all, period. But we could be in a situation very soon where there is widespread martial law. And if you've got good commanders who have control of their soldiers, then there won't be any problems. There could be scattered problems here and there. But generally speaking, the flag officers that I know, I do not fear that they're going to start, they're not going to start rounding people up and put them in concentration camps. They're not going to do it. At the same time, if there is martial law and there are real active duty infantry soldiers on the streets in a place like Los Angeles, and they tell you to put that shit down and they're pointing their rifle at you, you better put it down because they're going to shoot you. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I'm just telling you, trust me. If a soldier's aiming his rifle at you and he tells you to stop doing something, I highly suggest you stop doing it because that is almost certainly not a vacant threat. At the same time, I'm just not. I'm not afraid of most of our generals. None that I know of, actually. That I'm not afraid. They're not Chinese generals. I don't want martial law. I'm just saying I don't fear the U.S. military. I'm not afraid of the U.S. military. Leah Broadnat is asking, Mike, can you look into why so many flights coming from China? Thought we shut down borders from China. Flight Aware shows many flights. Actually, let me look that up right now. Flight Radar 24. Let's see. I check it all the time, but I haven't checked it in the last few days, actually. Clues. Let's see. I'm looking. Flights all over Europe, man. Look at this. Flights all over Europe. Clowns. In the United States, too. We should have grounded our flights so long ago. Remember, in January, I've been saying this all through February. Ground. Stop taking incoming flights and outgoing flights other than if they're going home, right? And I've been saying, get to your heart. Look at all these flights. I'll put it on the camera in a minute. Or just go to flightradar24.com and you can see it. This is on my phone, though. Look at all these flights. Underneath all that yellow, that's the United States. What? It's focusing on my face, so it's... Oh, I hear a helicopter. I hear a UH-1H, a Huey. Look on Flight Radar 24. Anyway, it's not got the there's flights all over the place. Yeah. I'm looking at China. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I see flights going straight over to North America. Look at that. Well, just look it up yourself because it doesn't look like it's going to give you a good picture because it's not focusing well. It's focusing on my face. Anyway, you can look it up yourself. Flight Radar 24. These are like little tubes of virus. These are little tubes, virus tubes, flying around at 500 or 600 miles an hour, however fast they're going. Oh, speaking of that, I was working on getting a shipment yesterday, and the price was going to be very high. I don't know what the price is going to be, but like for instance, DHL and FedEx, a lot of the commercial flights that they're normally able to get, apparently they're not. So they're doing their own cargo flights, which is like Angela Big says, there will be cargo shipments by air, but those apparently are super high price now. I don't know. I don't know that to be a fact, but that's what I was told yesterday as somebody was about to ship me something. Let's see. They're actually, if you go to Flight Radar 24, you can click on those flights. You can click on each flight, and you can see if it's a cargo flight. If it's like, Delta Flight 607, it might tell you, going from X to Y. And, when it took off, you can see it. You just go to Flight Radar 24. Barrios, trying to convince my sisters not to travel for their birthdays, unless they're just traveling like down the street. I would not be going to any birthday parties or anything like that. That's insane at this point. That is insane. All right. Let me see if there's Tommy Barrios saying the martial law conspiracy stuff is made up by ignorant and the indoctrinated. No, it's not. No, it's not. Martial law could actually occur. It could actually occur. If it does, it'll almost certainly be in localized places like, I don't know, Los Angeles. If it's out of control of the police, yeah, definitely. It could be martial law. I mean, martial law gets declared fairly frequently. Yeah. I mean, if the police can't respond, yeah. In fact, I would expect martial law. I mean, if people are burning down Los Angeles and raping and killing people by the hundreds, I want the army to get in there and start shooting some of those people doing it. And don't arrest them. I mean, we don't have time for that crap. You start doing this normal burn down the city stuff, bang, bang, you're dead. Next. You know what I mean? This is a very serious situation. It's not a time for messing around. People understand that. All right. I see a lot of comments here, but there's so many I can't hit them all. Hey, Virginia Young, I've seen no reference to Trump telling people to go back to work. Fake media, he said he hoped in time fairly slow. Yeah, I didn't see Trump telling people to go to work, but I don't see everything he says either. So, but there's so much fake media flying around. All right, let me see if there's any last questions. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and go offline. And Maura Moynihan, by the way, said that she will come on. Actually, I need to shoot her a message as soon as I go off. Okay, let's see. Cecilia Thompson saying my town has closed down all outdoor parks, but there is a trampoline park still open. Never going there again. Yes, Lois says yes. Martial law is always available, and some too ready to use it. I mean, I don't want to see it used, but the probability of it being used at times during this are pretty high, actually. At least in limited places. And there's some places you don't need it because in some places people behave, and then in other places, people don't behave. Kevin Greenleaf is saying there's some pretty hilarious National Guard memes floating around, like female guardsman shouldering a 240 with rounds in the belt facing her, LOL, or a guy covering his optic with his offhand trying to qualify, so people should not be that intimidated by the National Guard, aka nasty girls. National Guard. I've never heard that term before. It's all good fun, he says. I've never heard that term before. Let's see. You're welcome, SB. Best 5 tips for this week moving forward. Stock up, stock up, stock up. I would have minimum 4-month supply of food, minimum, and water. Your water situation depends on your particular situation. If you live in an urban environment and it's difficult to get water around, then you need to have a lot barrels of water or whatever. But if you live up in North Carolina, up in the mountains by Murphy, and there's clean water coming down the mountain all the time, then you just need to be able to either heat it to kill any bacteria in there, or because there's not viruses aren't a problem in wild water in the United States. It's only a problem when there's like a hurricane that causes sewage to leak into the creeks or rivers or that sort of thing. But if it's like mountain water, viruses won't be a problem. It's just bacteria, that sort of thing, and filters will get that out easily. And or you can heat it, of course. So it depends on your situation on the water. Uh, I would say though, certainly water, food, medicine, security. Depending on where you're at, security might not be a problem. Uh, Depending on where you're at, your security may be better now than it's ever been. And in other places, you could be entering into a very bad situation. Titania Cuevas is saying, what are my thoughts on this being a bioweapon? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen any real evidence of that. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying I don't know. I'm not in a position to know. And I just don't know. And I believe at this point nobody knows yet. Or if they do, it's certainly not gotten out yet. Okay. Barbara Spalding, if you recall, he said it would be. Oh, this idea that things are going to be closed down for 15 days, vanquish that from your mind. Or people saying, they expect their schools to be open by the end of April. Listen, if you're in America and you expect your schools to be open by end of April, I suggest you reevaluate that idea. Your schools are not going to be open by the end of April. It's not going to happen. Yeah, if you've got well water and you've got gas for a generator and a river a mile away and it's a clean river, then you're good to go on water, especially if you can walk a mile with water. Yeah, some businesses are going to need to stay open, pharmacies until they're out of stock. Um, Emily's saying, what would happen to the homeless if martial law was put into place? Sorry if I already posted this. My end says, well, I don't know. I mean, they're already homeless. They're not going to become less homeless. So I mean, there's like 30,000 people, I think, unless that number has changed, estimated to live in the jungles just in Hawaii. I've actually been out there in the jungles with them, researching them, talking with them, or actually researching something else, and talking with them out there. There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of them out there that'll hardly notice, probably, and then there's others that will, and that may come into town for whatever. And there's people that live out in the jungles, like in Hawaii or whatever, who are like even ex-military people with pensions, and they don't have to be homeless, but they choose to be homeless. I've actually met a lot of people that actually definitely choose to be homeless. There's a lot of people that definitely would not like to be homeless, but I've met a lot of people who actually that's the way they do. They're just like wandering. In India, they would be called sadhus, holy men. They just wander around. They'll just put on orange robes and say, I'm a holy man, but I've seen quite a few actually in America that choose that, and many don't. I don't know if it's that many, Titania, but I think it was like 30,000 last time I researched. It's a lot. You're welcome. Let's see. Danny, Survivalist would be a good go-to. Oh, yeah, if you want to know more about survival type issues, YouTube is a good place to start. I'm looking down here because I'm looking at comments, and that's why I'm not looking in the camera. I'm sorry. But there's go to YouTube and look on for people that are in your geographical area, because that's important for preppers, right? I'm a prepper. We call ourselves preppers, right? We prepare, right? And look for your general geographical location, because your problem set will be different than somebody, say, in Bermuda, unless you're in Bermuda, right? If you're in Alaska, you don't really care much about how people are going to prep in Bermuda. I mean, there might be some things there that you can learn from, but it's mostly a different problem set. And so look for people that are, in your general geographical type of situation, like up in the mountains, especially up in the mountains that you're in, or also in your economic situation, or also in your personal situation, like living in a condominium in New York City. Okay, what do preppers do that live in condominiums in New York City? That's a very specific problem set, and it has nothing to do with what people that live on Lake Okeechobee do down in Florida. You know what I mean? It's like completely different worlds. Um, so look, yeah. So look up situations. Noina Noina is saying, should you get cash out of the bank? Well, if I were you, I would convert a lot of your money into things that you're naturally going to use, like food. Convert it into long shelf. If depending on if you're like a billionaire, obviously you're not going to convert. You're not going to come to me for financial advice. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck, or you've only got $5,000 in the bank, I would consider putting a lot of that into food right now, because food prices are not going to go down right now. You know what I mean? At the bare minimum, they're going to stay the same, and you'll just cash out as you eat your food, right? Because you won't be buying more food. But probably food prices are going to go up, and wherever you're at, probably. And so buying it now does several things. One is you don't have to go to the store that often and take a bigger chance on getting infected. Two, well, you'll have the food. What happens if we do have, where this could go? And three, you'll save money if like rice prices have already gone up in Thailand. So if you bought it way back in January, you would have gotten it at a different price. Hello in South Africa. Paul Thomas is saying, why would you want to touch your cash? Well, because hyperinflation. And for those of us who've lived in countries where there is hyperinflation, which I've been in quite a few, like Romania, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, not so much Hungary at that time, Poland, East Germany, some others. When you go to hyperinflationary, so you can have like $10,000 right now, and all of a sudden it's worth $1,000, what it used to be worth. You have to they stop. If there's hyperinflation, for instance, you may see the United States stop making coins, as an example, for various reasons, because coins become relatively worthless. So like in Poland, when I lived there during hyperinflation, when I first went there, I think it was 20,000% or something like that. I don't remember, something like that. Anyway, but the zloty, which is the Polish money. Actually, one of my friends in Poland, she might come on and say how she's in quarantine in Poland right now. We'll ask her. But anyway, the zloty, was hyperinflated, and so the coins became worthless, and so they stopped making coins, and because it didn't make sense, they were worthless, and they're just, so things like that, dollar bills suddenly could be worth a dime. You know what I mean? And if they start printing a lot more currency, and money, which is two different things. Oh, you're saying Mike Morgan? I think he means germs on the cash. Yeah, I mean that's obviously a problem. I see what you're saying. Paul is saying, and see that's a problem here in Thailand. Some of the banks are still open. And some have already closed, but the money, I mean, there's banks are still open right now. George is saying you're going on a 21-day lockdown starting on 26 March. Where are you? Are you you're in South Africa. Oh, that's crazy. Why are they waiting until 26th of March? We already know what happens. Everybody squirts. That's what they did in Wuhan, right? The government's like, we're going to lock down. Boom. They squirted out everywhere. They were flying all over the place, going to different parts of China. Likewise, in Italy, closing down the northern part. They went to the south, and they went up to Germany. They went all over the place, right? So they're just every minute, literally, without exaggeration, every minute at this point that we delay is more lives lost every single minute. This virus is replicating so fast. It's exponential. It is like boom. I wonder how many tons of virus are out there. Viruses are very tiny, but they have mass. I wonder how many literal tons of virus are out there and how many are being created per minute, around the world. If it I wonder that's a kind of an interesting math question for any of the people that are into math wizardry. You would have to know something about virology as well. Let's see. Uh, yeah, but like you said, yeah, every minute that we delay is just the United States has lost so much time, and not to mention Europe and here in Thailand, and Thailand is now going vertical. And my Thai friends, I kept telling them it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. They're like, no, the government's got it under control, and I'm like, no, they don't. Look how many Indians have come on to my look. I don't see any Indians coming on today. Usually, there's quite a few Indians that'll come on and leave messages, and a lot of them are like, "Oh, India will be able to handle it," and I'm like, "I've been to India quite a lot, and no, you can't handle it. India will explode. India will explode, and India and Pakistan are already blaming it on each other. Every time something like this happens, people blame it on like the South Koreans blaming it on that cult, right? Because people always blame other religions. People always blame other people, and it's not always without reason. Actually, sometimes there is actual real reason. But now you see Italians, some blaming Germans, which makes me think that's almost certainly Chinese information war, doing a deflection away from Italy. I mean, from China. I watched Chinese information war. I've written 3 books on Chinese information war. That's the last one. It came out 3 weeks ago. You can get it on Amazon.jp. And so they always blame the United States and Japan, and I would not doubt. And they always divide and conquer. These are normal. They work quite well for them. Africa as well. India and Africa, they're not going to be able to handle it at all. One of the problems that India is going to have is it has such diversity. You have to go there to believe it. If you ever scuba dive on a coral reef and you see all those gazillions of types of fish, like everywhere you go is another kind of fish. Everywhere you turn, India is like that. Only it's people, right? And so it's different, huge amounts of different cultures, and man, it's just so complex. It's very difficult to get your head wrapped around it. That's why every time I see Indians, if there's time, I love to talk with them and ask them about India. I don't know how India works even in the best of times because it's so complex. George is saying at the moment we have 402, no deaths yet. Watch this. In about 2 weeks, it'll probably be in the thousands. Yeah. Mary Spangler saying Hyderabad has it in other parts as well. They're on lockdown, but I know India. They're not gonna go. They're not gonna do the lockdown thing. I mean, some will, but there's very you have to go there and you'll see what I mean. India is just not going to be able to control it. Simplify in Tucson, Arizona. Hey, Daniel. Let's see. Ted Gambogi is saying Thailand is 1/3 of New Jersey. If you mean cases, yeah, but this is going exponentially. So 1/3, that is like nothing. That's like, trust me, watch. Yeah, Zach Collis says, I remember when everyone thought preppers were paranoid idiots. Ha ha. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And we're not. We're not. I had masks. I already had them. I didn't have these. I bought these to give away, and I gave almost all of them away. Actually, I gave a bunch of other ones as away too. That well, they're not here because I gave them away. But let's see if there's any other. There's a lot of interesting comments coming in. Tommy, you always hear that 90% of currency in Florida tested positive for cocaine. I think that's urban. I think that's urban legend. I don't believe that at all. Um, Angela's saying, I know you're on top of the tardiness in the U.S., but what are your thoughts on some of the plans forward that are being put into place, considering it's reactive? Some really good ideas are coming forth, being implemented. I also see the best of America holding strong and being smart. Brigades of women are making masks feverishly and such. Want to comment? Yeah, I mean, everybody should be making what they can. Everybody should, as I say in most of my feeds, I should say it every time. If everybody helps one person every day, we'll be fine. If everybody helps at least one person, we'll be fine. Just do two things every day. Three things. First, you have to take care of yourself. Secondly, help one more person, take care of your family, help one more person. And finally, take one shot at the Chinese Communist Party every day, even if it's just leaving a bad comment somewhere on a web string every day, or choosing not to buy something from made in China. Every day, take care of yourself and your family, of course. Help one person and do something that damages Chinese Communist Party every day. Don't spend a lot of time on the damaging Chinese Communist Party yet. We're going to get to that, but get into the habit of it. We'll get to that later. When we get to the other side of this thing, then we need to take them out. We need to do everything possible. If that's just massive boycotts and all kinds, not electing anybody who is not crystal clear on their stance on China that we are decoupling. Nobody. I wouldn't vote for a single person that doesn't say it in these words. We are going to decouple from China. If President Trump doesn't say that, I won't vote for him, right? You know what I'm saying? Everybody needs to say very clear, we are decoupling. We'll always have relations and do some business together because we're, different economies. But we are not going to have any pharmaceuticals made in China, period. Nothing. Not even an aspirin. Nothing that we rely on for our national security should ever be made in China. None of these computers, nothing that they can install malware in, anything like that. Nothing. We're going to obviously have to deal with China because as customers and that sort of thing, but not none of our critical manufacturing at all should be, no pharmaceuticals should be made in China. They've already threatened to cut off our pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals that our military depends on are manufactured in China. You can't even make up stuff like this. Our government is the one that led us into this because they created the conditions that made it make sense for businesses to go move to China, like Apple. They made, I'm using Apple products. Why are these made in China? And the idea that these things are secure is ridiculous. Why would China allow iPhones to be made in China that are secure? That's not happening. But every time, something happens, you see that Apple has a fight with the FBI about letting them get in and have a back door or whatever. You think the Chinese Communist Party is letting Apple sell secure phones in China? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, we need to be completely independent of China on anything critical. They can make plastic toys. That's it. I don't want to make anything that we depend on. We already are at war with China. China's been at war with us for a long time. That's why I've been at war with China, and so have others. That's why I've written 3 books on it. I didn't just write these books last week. I didn't just write these books, when the virus came. These 3 books, and the reason that I was in Hong Kong with the insurgency was fighting Chinese Communist Party. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, this isn't a new party for me, right? That's why I was so far ahead on this virus, because I'm watching China 7 days a week, right? Uh, and so, yeah. So, in addition to being a prepper, which people look at as crazy, but I don't always advertise that. Preppers shouldn't do it. The only reason I'm even saying that now, normally preppers should keep it quiet that they're preppers, obviously. But here I am telling you to do it. So that's otherwise I would, you know, it's not like I would go around and say, yeah, I got, I'm prepared. You're just putting a crosshair on yourself, obviously. But if I'm going to convey that to you, then like little things, like thermometers. I mean, a lot of people don't even have thermometers now. Like some of my friends that think they got symptoms, they don't have thermometers. Like here, I got several thermometers. You know what I mean? It's like, and but I'm not hoarding. I already had my stuff. It's like, um, or an oximeter, a pulse oximeter can be good to have. Pulse, like, what a pulse oximeter is. You can see, how much. Let me see how much oxygen is in my blood now. You put that on your finger basically, and you should keep it still. You can't be doing this, and it'll tell you what your pulse is and your well. If I'm talking, I don't know if that affects it or not. So my uh my pulse is about, let's see, 77, and my oxygen is, which is 76. My oxygen 75. My pulse is going down. Anyway, which is pretty high right now. Actually, normally my pulse is a lot lower. But it's because I'm talking and riled up on China. But my oxygen is 97 right now. It should be, I think, between 95ish and 99 or something like that. Anyway, mine's always fine, so it doesn't matter. But you should have, one of these, of course. If somebody starts to have problems, you can, check your temperature, check all that. And you can, tell the doctor, email to the doctor and say what you're seeing. I got a blood pressure, sphygmomanometer. I got all that stuff. Angela's saying, my daughter could not find a thermometer in Pensacola today, FY. One of my friends got sick in Los Angeles and she couldn't find a thermometer. And somebody, I think she said FedEx to her. Oh, thank you, Barbara. Thank you. I hope you've read it. Actually, I've seen the reviews have been very good on Amazon.jp. I hope if any Japanese are watching this, they'll read my books. I I wish it didn't. I wish my third one didn't come out right now. Obviously, because we're all going to take financial damage. Who's going to buy books now that aren't related to, say, viruses or survival? You know what I mean? That sort of thing. These are the sorts of books that you need to read before we get into this. That's why I can instantly now look and see, like Italians starting to blame Germans. I've studied Chinese information war enough to know somewhere there's a Chinese guy from CCP behind this, almost certainly. But keeping in mind, people do tend to blame others. And it really could have been somebody. It really could have been, a first case came from Germany to an Italian or something. It really could have, but obviously they came from China. We know that. We know that this came from China, unless there's further evidence in the future. Sabrina is saying, thank you. I'm surrounded by Marines, dad, husband, and sons. Do have a daughter also. Thank goodness. Oh yeah, you should be good to go. You just got to keep them fed, and then everything will be good to go. Because hungry Marines are, it can be kind of a problem. Let's see. Cecilia Thompson, my O2 is 99 and my blood BPM is 102. We have got one for my grandparents. Good. Kim is saying, I'm trying to get my family to all obtain small travel trailers to locate to our ranch. That's a good idea. They all don't get it. Having your own space key when all together, I'm getting upset over the pushback. Listen, if you're in North Florida, make sure you know where the springs are, or Kentucky River, or whatever. There's so many springs in north part of Florida. You should never be without water if there's one within walking distance. There's so much water. And, if you're up in the mountains of Appalachia, there's going to be beautiful streams all over the place. Or out in the Rockies. A lot of the water that you find in the woods is perfectly fine. You have all three books. I hope you enjoyed them. Todoroki-san, I hope you reviewed them all. I hope you reviewed my books, and I hope you gave them 5 stars. Please. Let's see. Donald says in the Bible, people thought Noah was crazy too, and then yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess Noah was a prepper, taking 2 of everything, right? They believe that up on Mount Ararat, that's in Turkey, right? Anyway, that's a whole different story. Let's see. Look up Dr. Merritt. Okay, Tommy Barrios. Look up Dr. Merritt. On all these cures and miracle cures, I'm going to be very cautious because every time stuff like this happens, it's always bang, bang, bang. And then we find out later, confirmation bias or whatever, or somebody was trying to sell something or whatever. Okay, let's see here. Brian says, this is a way of Earth equalizing itself. It sure is. I mean, and also it's believed that the pollution in the air makes our respiratory systems more sensitive to, respiratory illness. And wow. And, all throughout Asia. Look at the air quality index. You won't believe it. It's unbelievable. Like, hopefully it should be getting cleaner with all the businesses stopping now. Let me look here. Air. Here we go. Air pollution, real-time quality index. Let's see here. Oh, unhealthy. This is Chiang Mai right now. You see, it's 179. Well, it's not focusing well because it's focusing on my face. You can look it up. Look it up. It's called AQICN.org, Air Quality Index. And if you look at all these countries, like, United States needs to do this on that on global warming issues. And I'm like, you know what? You clowns need to clean up all your air around the world first before you start telling us what we should do. You know what I mean? Seriously, it's really important to clean up your air. And it's very important. Why is this one flight? Look at this one strange flight going out there. Huh. You can go to, that's a Flight Radar 24. See that one different colored flight? Interesting, huh? You can look it up and see it yourself. That's out over the Atlantic. Interesting. Maybe Air Force or something. Thank you, Brian. Corona party. I'm not going there. But I'm not going to any Corona parties. Let's see. All right. I'm trying to answer any more questions. Yeah. But I would say definitely get a thermometer. Go ahead and order one if they're, they'll be making more of them. And, you can get a pulse oximeter, a sphygmometer for checking your blood pressure, or this for checking the oxygen. I mean, if you start to have, breathing problems, you want to check your oxygen. All righty. So things are slowing down. I'm going to get back to work. I may come back on later today. Yeah, Weishan was saying the air quality index website is useful. Thank you. Looking over at Wuhan right now. How's Wuhan look, Weishan? Let me see. Hello in Arizona, Robert Moore. Speaking from Arizona, been with you since the early Obama days. Besides the virus, What do you think Americans' number one concern is right now besides food? What world tension may affect us? Oh, the economy, for sure. The economy. The economy underpins everything as we go forward. I think that we're going to see some fundamental changes in the United States. I think we're going to see some very fundamental changes. I was talking with a big businessman yesterday. They're talking, giving breathing room for student loans as an example. I think 60 days or something, and which is kind of a joke. Do you think really in 60 days anybody's going to be paying student loans? Who's going to be paying student loans in 60 days? There's some people that probably can, but a lot of people are not going to be able to pay them, period. Zilch. They're out of work. They're not going to pay their student loans. They're probably going to default on them. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do if, how many student loans are out there? I don't know, 1 million? I don't even know. How many are just going to go into default, period? And it's just they're going to be NPLs, right? Non-performing loans, right? How many mortgages? We all know where this is all going. How many IRS bills will be left? Think about the implications of this. As the economy contracts, how many IRS bills are going to be left unpaid? So then how many people are not going to get their retirement check? How many people are not going to, what are we going to do with military pay? Shut down are we going to start shutting down NASA? Are we going to stop monitoring some of our like Jupiter probes and all that, all these, we got huge amounts of probes out there. It was huge amounts that could be, what about Hubble? Are we going to keep it operating? I want to keep it all operating. I want to keep NASA going. I don't want to turn off any of our probes, right? You know what I mean? Or just stop monitoring them and maybe they just die. I don't know. Do they need constant? I don't know. I'm not a space engineer. What about experiments that must be kept going all the time? There's a lot of science that goes out there, which is multi-year or even multi-generation studies that must have continuity, right? And you can't just turn them off and turn them back on like a light switch. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to? We have to be very careful about what we shut down. Which light switch do we turn off? Don't do it willy-nilly, but we're going to have to start shutting off some lights. But what are we going to do how many taxpayers do we have that make tax bills to the IRS every year? Is it, I don't know, 120 million? I don't even know. What happens when 80% of them, I'm just throwing a number out there, they don't have the money, period. It doesn't matter if the IRS threatens to put them in prison, even while we're releasing prisoners. It won't matter because who's going to be paying the prisons, right? Who's going to be even paying the prosecutions when the courts aren't open? Who's going to go arrest them when the police are not even arresting shoplifters? What will happen to the IRS? What will happen when the tax base not only is gone, but the ability to enforce it is gone? Because let's say let's say 100 million people default on tax bills. Wow. This can happen. I was in business before in the United States. You can have tax bills. I used to have to pay taxes in many different dozens and dozens of counties and several states. And then the IRS, of course. So, you got that, you got IRS level, and then I had to pay many different counties and numerous states. What's going to happen when businesses just go out and they're not, the even sales tax goes out? What are we going to do with our tax system? Because we need taxes to run the country. Universal sales tax is starting to look smart, right? That's something that can be done at point of sale and more enforceable. This could be the traumatic injury that allows the IRS to be actually diminished dramatically in size, or even closed. I don't know, and go to a sales tax because we need to pay taxes. But how we pay it needs to be done, and it's being done unwisely since forever. We've got this bloated, terrible government now that's just a behemoth and led us right into China, making pharmaceuticals in China. Did not all those taxes that you've been paying? They didn't buy simple masks. They didn't buy simple masks. So what should we do about this? What are we going to do when, well, I don't know, say 100 million tax bills are out there? But think about it. This will be done at the county, the city. This will be on property tax. This will be sales tax. This will be student loans. This will be, I mean, there'll be the taxes parts, and then there'll be the loans that are between financial institutions. Uh, this is all collapsing, even as you watch this, right? Um, yeah. So, I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, this is I believe we are getting to the point where you're going to see a taxpayer revolt, a real taxpayer revolt, a real Tea Party revolt. I believe this is where, when I came back from the wars, I was with some of my family, and I was like, what are these Tea Partiers? And some of my family are like, we're Tea Partiers. I'm like, really? Well, what are they? I just asked you what they are. I'm not putting you on defense, right? And they're like, they start telling me, and I was like, oh, that kind of makes me a Tea Partier, actually. It's like, it's like, I mean, because I believe in minimal government, but I also want to have our parks. I want to have our space program. I want to have strong law enforcement. I want to have strong borders. I just don't want all this ridiculousness. So we're coming into a moment of opportunity amid chaos to cut a lot of stuff that didn't need to be there. And then we've built it into, we've built so much fat into the system. We're having a traumatic shutdown here, and we don't have to restart everything. And we should restart it. Yeah, and that's why, like John Gideon says, stop policing the world, perhaps. Exactly. Why are we in Afghanistan? Out. We don't need to be in Afghanistan. I think we're going to suddenly see how little we are really affected if we just change the way we deal with the world. If we just change the way that we just stop interfering. But if any terrorism comes from Afghanistan, which that terrorism didn't come from Afghanistan on 9/11. It came from Arabs some happened to be there, but others happened to be in Florida and Germany, and we didn't bomb Florida, right? And we bombed Iraq and invaded Iraq. None of the terrorists came from Iraq. They didn't come from Iraq, period. Al Qaeda, none of the 9/11 attackers were Iraqis, and none of them were based in Iraq, period. We just went on our own little jihad and started attacking all over the place. And some places needed to be attacked. But likewise, I think that we're going to find out that as we close a lot of things down, we can't afford them. And then we will, over time, it could take a long time, rebuild our economy. Let's don't rebuild that fat back into it. Yeah, we don't need to restart everything. We don't. We need to start talking about that as we rebuild the economy. But right now, we'll get to that later, because right now we got a war. We are literally in a war, and I have no doubt that there will be. I'm seeing my red light blink over here sometimes, which means I'm peeking out. Nobody told me hey, where's all the sound experts? And so, yeah, we don't need to restart everything. We don't, but right now we're in a war, and there will be famines. I don't know where, but these things always lead to famines. Always. There will be wars. I don't know where. Will there be some sort of civil war or unrest in Italy? Good chance. What about France? Good chance. UK? Possibly. Germany? Maybe. United States? High chance. I would say at this point more than 50% chance that there will be significant civil unrest in the United States, and I'll have to go back. Man, I don't want to go back to my own country as a war correspondent. That would be the worst thing ever. You know what I mean? I would really love to avoid that at all cost. And so, we have to think about these things now because this is the world we're coming into. We're coming into a world where a lot of our people that are now retired or who were retiring suddenly are not going to have the kind of money they had before, period. They might not have enough money to pay for food. You know what I mean? We're going to have to, if everybody helps one person, everybody who can help helps one person, we can take care of that a lot of ourselves without the government. You know, there's people like me that have never applied for any government help. Like there's people like me are averse to that. Others aren't, obviously, and millions of people are going to have to apply for unemployment. How are we going to pay for it? Um, um, you know, there's some of us that are really. I've never wanted uh, to 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 apply for any government funding. I never have, and I never plan to do it. I'm not saying I never would. If I'm starving to death, I might do that, but I'm just super averse to doing that. Oh, thank you. Kim McGee says, "You are the smartest man, Mike." Oh, thank you. You make so much sense. No restart of fat taxes, lean government, minimal government. I totally agree. The government is the one that got us into this. I mean, they're the ones who got us so deeply into China that so many, more than 80% of our pharmaceuticals are made in China. Our governments are so entwined that we are in there's no escaping that we will take severe damage decoupling. There's no escaping that. There's no escaping that we through our negligence have built a system in which uh, this is unbelievable that this has happened. That China has so much oomph that they were able to bring this plague to the earth, and we didn't have the political clout to say, "Look, you need to shut it down, or we're going to shut you down." Right? We didn't have that kind of clout, and see what's happened now. Literally, millions of Americans could die now. Not to mention people around the world. Tens of millions of people may die from this virus. We don't know. We'll know soon. We'll know. I'll know when you know. We'll all know at the same time from the virus and also the fallout from the virus insofar as I mean if you have an infected tooth now, infected teeth can be super dangerous. I mean, it can kill you in a day, right? Go straight to your brain and dead, right? And how many dental offices are going to close from this or that sort of thing? This is a serious um, you know, and I want to say it again. If you're into dangerous sports like parachuting or mountain biking, I love mountain biking. Haven't done it in a long time, but I used to love mountain biking big time. Had Cannondale, had several, and and you know I did a lot of dangerous things. I would go caving and that sort of thing. There's no way I would do that now. I'm not going to do anything that's of uh, electively higher danger at this point. I mean, if there's a war in the United States, obviously I'll go back, and then I'll take my chances as I do in wars. But even when I go to wars, I always wear body armor and that sort of thing. But you know, that's obviously with limited value. But the point is don't do anything that like if you drink a lot, reduce. You need to reduce or stop because the doctors are saying, for instance, this makes you more susceptible to having severe complications from this disease, as an example, or if you do drugs, obviously. So these sorts of things are important. Anything that is especially because if you go to the hospital just because you had a car accident, it doesn't mean you go to the front of the line when the hospital's already filled. Hospital saturation is saturation. The cup is full. The cup is full. Um, and so doctors across the United States will soon be making triage decisions on who lives and dies, as they are now in Spain. You see some of these YouTubes in Italy. You see some of these people crying on YouTube videos. They're like, oh, they're pulling the plugs on letting people die. They're giving them medicines to reduce the pain, but they know they're going to die because they need the ventilator for somebody else. I mean, when they're down to that level and you go out and get into a car accident, I know one thing. I mean, if I were a doctor and you came in with an accident from drinking and driving, and I had a choice to treat the person who's coming in from a drinking and driving accident versus somebody else, drinking and driving person will go to the end of the line. Period. Sorry, that was elective danger, and it'll come down. It'll come down to that. But certainly uh, when it comes when it comes to our future system in the United States, we need to make it crystal clear to anybody that we're going to vote for. They have to be all about decoupling from China and all about bringing all of our pharmaceuticals back, not even to friendly countries, but within the United States. We don't have any FDA inspectors, according to reports now, in China. So any drugs that you're getting from China right now, which is more than 80% of our drugs, or APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients that go into drugs that may be manufactured somewhere else, but they come from China. So China, I mean, there could be people dying right now across America from Chinese drugs. We don't have the FDA is not inspecting any of that right now, according to reports. Think about that. So all these drugs for people that are now going into the hospitals for this, oversaturated hospitals, there's no FDA even checking those drugs because our government has created conditions for our businesses to go to China to do this. Meanwhile, the average person in the United States can't even afford pharmaceuticals. The average person can't even. Maddie, who got her test last week in Denver, still doesn't even have her test results for her. This is what is today? Today's Tuesday here in Thailand. She doesn't even have her results back yet. We're like third world country. We're like third world. We're like Congo. Maddie can't even afford the level of medical treatment that she needs. There's millions of people like that in America. Meanwhile, we got pharmaceutical companies making untold billions of dollars with crap that's not even inspected by the FDA, made in China. We need to make some changes, dramatic changes, traumatic changes to the way we do business. And I don't mean communist Bernie Sanders either. No way. Or demented Joe guy. He seems to have some kind of dementia or something. I don't know what's wrong with him. I'm not talking about that. Or that guy Bloomberg. He's not out of it. He's not in it anyway now. But he's clearly in China's pocket. We need leadership that is going to go ballistic on all of this fat within our government and our relationships with countries like China. I love the way President Trump has finally stood up to China when all these other presidents before him, Obama, Bush, Clinton, take it on back to Nixon, all the way back to Nixon, and Kissinger, that idiot everybody calls a genius, have taken it all back. They've all been facilitating this with China. Trump finally is fighting back. Excuse me. Trump is finally fighting back. But, even Trump is a barnyard chicken compared to the super hawk that I am. I mean, I'm like the freaking bald eagle with sharpened titanium talons when it comes to China. Not China, but CCP, Chinese Communist Party. We have no truck with Chinese people. They're fine, no problem. But the Chinese Communist Party, we have to take them out. We have to undermine them in every way possible. They've been undermining us for generations. They've been stealing all of our intellectual property. They've been spying on us like mad. We need to undermine them, and we can do it. We're good at it. We are very good at it. What do you think I was in Hong Kong? I wasn't there to play games. I wasn't there to take pictures. I was there to undermine the Chinese Communist Party. And if everybody watching this, persuades their family and friends and they do this the Amway way, you know what I'm saying? We can have every one of us taking one shot, one poison dart, one poison arrow at the CCP every day. We can hurt them very badly over time. But we have to we have to take out CCP, and we have to cut the United States government. And this is our perfect chance. This is our time to do it. Uh, and this means a lot of our ridiculous defense spending as well. We can still have the strongest military in the world easily, but still reduce these ridiculously high cost of some of the weapons that we pay. Ridiculously high cost. Look at our Javelin missiles. I've probably seen, I would say, 100 Javelin missiles fired in combat. Probably 100. And probably 100 Hellfires as well. I don't remember seeing any Hellfire missiles fail. But Javelin missiles have a pretty high failure rate. And they're expensive, man. And you can usually, if you're out with like a platoon, you can, at most, you're going to carry 2 because they're heavy, right? And a lot of them fail. And they're, why? I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, I want to have, and we must have, the strongest military in the world, period. And I want the best weapons for our people, period. But there's too many ridiculous expenditures out there. And the military industrial complex that we were warned about like 70 years ago is now what we were warned about by previous generations who were very smart. It's time to make some dramatic changes. It's time to make some dramatic changes to the way we do business. Yeah, it is a Chinese pandemic. I call it Xi's disease. This is Xi's disease. But we are coming into a perfect situation to take out the Chinese Communist Party. But it's going to take us a long time, just the United States, to dig out of this. And I do expect wars. And we have to be very cautious about which wars we're willing to get into. Very cautious. If it doesn't deal directly with United States national security, listen, remember, we've been telling NATO partners, you need to pony up for your defense. It's that time. You are responsible for your own defense. We've been warning you. President Trump has been warning you. It's that time. It's time for Japan to really throw out Article 9. You got to throw out Article 9. For people that don't know what Article 9 is, we basically wrote Article 9 after World War II, saying that, well, I'll summarize it. Basically, Japan can only have a military for self-defense, which I'm not sure what kind of weapon there is that's only good for self-defense. But anyway, but Japan needs to build its Navy, and it needs to build its Air Force, and it needs to build its Army, and Japan needs to be able to defend itself. I'm not afraid of Japan. We should have never fought Japan in World War II anyway. We should have been allies against the communists, but that's another story for another time. We fought the wrong people. We should have been allies with Japan. It's ridiculous, but that's a huge, very interesting historical story. Another time when our government really deluded us, and we ended up getting attacked at Pearl Harbor. I get it. I've been to the memorials. I totally get it. But we fought the wrong people. We should have been fighting the communists. We should have been fighting the communists who just helped facilitate this Xi's disease. I'm glad, Lois, that you captioned these Xi's disease. I've told Steve Bannon numerous times, call it Xi's disease. He's trying to call it CCP Wuhan virus, which I get. That's fine. I'm going to keep calling it Xi's disease. I'm going to call it Xi's disease. Let's see. All right. Kevin is saying Japanese don't like to be called Japs, by the way, because of World War II stuff and the stigma that comes from that way back when. I mean, if it were coming now, I don't think they would care, because as the Japanese know, most Americans, especially if you've been to Japan, will tend to really super like Japanese and actually admire Japanese. Uh, but uh, but it's a word with some luggage. But Japan needs to build its military. Japan really needs to build its military, and we need to. Uh, let's see. All right, I'm looking for any other questions here. Okay, kung flu. John is saying, then you are simply not informed. I don't know if you're actually responding to me or somebody else. We might not know exactly where it came from. That's true if you're talking to me. You talking to me? Joke. Um, but what we do know is that it was in Wuhan and they had a chance to quash it there and they didn't. Period. We do know that. That's clear. Um, did it start somewhere else and get over to Wuhan? I don't know. But you know what? And you won't have to look hard to find this. Virology virologists have been warning us and epidemiologists for years that the Chinese wet markets, the fresh markets with all these animals, which I've been to these in different countries, including China, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, here in Thailand, different places. Anyway, the experts have warned us for years that these diseases come out of there and that we're facing a potential Armageddon disease coming specifically from Chinese wet markets or fresh markets. They've been very specific. And this is nothing new. They've been saying this for years and years and years. I'll bet you can find reference to that. This is the age of the internet. I'll bet you can find reference in 5 minutes. I mean, I've read about it, and I'm not even a virologist. I've read about the stuff. Of course, I've read a lot of books on biological warfare and that sort of thing. I would certainly have 4 months of food, and depending on where you're at, uh, if you have the ability to grow things, absolutely. I mean, I planted some peppers and things. Uh, uh, I mean, I would definitely, if you're in if you're in Virginia and you're on a ranch, man, I'd be plowing the ground right now. I'd be out there with, I would be out there, certainly planting. Maybe, maybe get your own couple cows, maybe get a bunch of chickens going if you don't have them going right now. It's really easy to do, really easy. You can buy stock and get it going. Um, I don't know. I guess there's some troll somewhere, but I haven't seen them. Maybe because there's a lot of comments up here. Ed Celio saying, my mission every day, teach one person about how CCP lies, teach one person about prepping. And when I stop, help one person find something they need. It's in short supply. See, if everybody follows your example, we're going to be good to go. I mean, you're like teaching people about prepping, helping one person, and educating about CCP. If everybody does that, we are good to go. We will make it through. And, we will definitely make it through. Let's see. I'm looking. Somebody's saying that there's a troll here. If there is, I can't even block on. I don't see a troll. There might be. It must be way up on the comments. Let's see here. We're just chatting now. By the way, I've already said everything I'm going to say long ago, so we're just chatting. Idaho. Jack Alvin is saying Idaho has 71 cases. I'm heading to the mountains with my travel trailer, and I'll stay till the end of summer. Good. That's what you need to do. And Idaho, man, it's nice up there. That is super nice. Um. Oh, I see. It's Brian. Okay. I will block him. Brian is saying I'm the troll. Okay, I'll block you, Brian, when I go offline. Tell me what thread are you seeing Brian on? I can only see him copying that he's. I can only see that he's on Facebook, and so if he's on one of my Facebook pages, I can block him. If he's on somebody else's, I can't block him. Or maybe I can. I'm not sure. Georgia has 600 cases now. That means you'll be in the thousands big time very soon. Yeah, the bioresearch facility. Let's see. Where where is he at? If you can tell me where Brian is at, I'll block him when I go offline, and we won't have to deal with it again. Weishan is saying we may look at the Japanese military, but the military needs a willing people too. Are there many who are fit and willing to serve? I don't know. I don't know. I do think that there's still a lot of very strong Japanese who have the right spirit, but only Japanese will know that. Hey, Mark Ching, let's see. Trump says things will be bad, but is itching to scale back social distancing. I didn't. I'll have to look at your link later. Thanks, Ed. Troll. Okay, I see you saying trolls on Facebook, but I don't know which Facebook page. This goes out to many different Facebook pages. So, Kevin, if you can tell me which page. Is it one of my pages? Okay, Megan, I know this is not important, but should I stock up on cigarettes now? Sorry, but let's put it this way. If you want to smoke when you're facing a respiratory illness, I think that's a mistake, but I'm not your doctor. Yeah, that's one problem that Japan has is a large elderly population. Okay, yeah, but which Facebook, Dizzy? And this is feeding out to multiple Facebook pages, and when I see the comments coming, I can't tell which Facebook page they're coming from. Okay, so Megan says my page. All right, so good. I can block him on my page when I go offline. How's Russia faring with the outbreak? I think Russia is it's just covering up. They are offering help to Italy and I think a couple of other places, but it's just I know how Russia rolls. Russia will do what China does. They'll come out and go, look, we're helping you here. They'll go out, they'll bring about 50 camera crews and they'll go, here, have some mask, and then and everybody will go, oh, thank you for the mask, thank you, thank you, and then China will go to the bar, or they'll go to the brothel. They won't. They're not there to help. They're there for the photo op. Let's see. John Miley is saying, I have a neighbor that's an administrator for the healthcare facility. He took his family for a European vacation last week, returned from Switzerland Sunday, and is returning to work this week, dismissive about the threat he poses to those at work in the neighborhood. Truly unbelievable. Name and shame, man. Name and shame. Name and shame. Don't hesitate. Do not hesitate. Name and shame. We're at war. We are absolutely at war. And in fact, if other people at his work get that, I mean, he can lose. He can lose. Imagine when this is all said and done, lawsuits. So go ahead, name and shame now. It'll be evidence later if somebody decides to sue him. Yeah, the Italian, it says here's a comment. The Italian people thank China and Russia and also Cuba for the doctors and the aid sent to Italy. I know how this will go. It's all photo ops. Listen, Russia right now is in a price war on oil with Saudi Arabia. Russia cannot afford anything to begin with. Russia cannot even keep their own economy afloat. They are not coming to Italy with any massive help. Cuba is Cuba. It's a third world country. It's like they're not going to do any serious help. They're there for the photo op. They're there to say, look what we're doing. We're here to help. In China, even worse. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Russia was very quick to close its border with China in particular. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, Lois, I'll find him. And Kirk is asking, what do I think of early release of prisoners? If they're nonviolent and it's just like marijuana or something, release them immediately today. If it's something that's like trivial, like fishing without a license, something like that, I mean, released, gone. In fact, released and like expunge, and I'm not saying expunge record, but release and don't even look. We're not going to have a lot of tax for all these millions of prisoners anymore. You know what I mean? At this rate, we're going to have to make some changes on how many people we keep in prison, or they're going to have to be kept in there at a much lower rate. Yeah, Dizzy Van Patten, that administrator is liable. Do name and shame. Heck, I'll share it. Yeah, I mean, but remember, make sure before you pull the trigger on naming and shaming, you are absolutely correct. You need to treat the keyboard like it is a loaded rifle. I mean, don't make sure, because if you're wrong, you can destroy his career, his life, everything else. If you're right, you need to destroy his career. You know what I'm saying? If you're right and he just came in from an infected area and he's coming into healthcare facilities and not quarantining, he needs to be out. He doesn't need to be working in anything or with other people. I'll get that, Cheryl. Thank you. Yeah, exactly, Ed. Russia's not going to help anybody. It's just a. In fact, that could be a Russian bot coming on, like, Italians thank Russia, because that's how Russia rolls. And Russia's good at information war. China is even better, um, and Cuba. Yeah, exactly. Colin said another thing that needs to be reset is paying $60,000 to $100,000 per prisoner. I don't know how much they actually cost. I don't know. I know it's a lot. I know it's ridiculous. I know that it costs more to keep prisoners than it does to, you know, it's than a lot of people make per year out, paying rent. It's ridiculous because a lot of our prisons are businesses. It's I mean, we've created a business out of the prisons. Our whole government, our whole United States needs to be reworked, and this is our opportunity to do it. This is our opportunity to remake our country better than it was. America 2.0, or really more like 4.0 or something else point oh. We've already been through a bunch of point ohs. This is our chance to not do it as an incremental update, but as a dramatic update, like post Civil War update. You know what I mean? This is a chance to remake the United States in a much better way, with a government that doesn't send off so much of our industry overseas, so that people at home can be employed. This Make America First thing, that Make America Great Again and Make America First, that upset so many countries in the world and Americans for some weird reason. Now, look, all these countries are going, oh, we have to defend Germany. Yeah, we have to defend the United Kingdom. We have to defend Italy, of course, Spain. Switzerland's about to be smashed by this. Switzerland's got a huge case rate for that little. You ever been to Switzerland? Switzerland's about to get smashed. And they're super educated people. How did this happen to Switzerland? So I mean, we've gotten to the point. We are coming into a new era for the United States, and we need to reshape our government. We need to take control of our government. As our government it's going to implode. The United States government clearly is going to be defunded, dramatically defunded at this point. Defunded. What's going to happen to our national debt? Is it going to go up to $35 trillion now? I mean, which is a national security risk, to say the least. There's a lot of changes that are going to have to occur. We're going to have to reduce the size of our government. Like, why do we even have an IRS? All the IRS can go get other jobs. Close it. Make a national sales tax, because we have to pay taxes. We need to pay taxes. But if you've ever been into business, and know how much bullshit paperwork you have to do for so many government entities, I have to fill out paperwork for this. You're like, am I ever going to get any work done? Seriously, it's all paperwork and this and that and the other. It's like, oh crap, you didn't pay so-and-so. Oh, here's a fine for $8,000. You're like, what? What's this? You know what I mean? Just like, there's so many things out there that, like, if you ever been into small business, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've been into a medium-sized business, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We need to, I mean, all these people are, putting down Make America Great Again, or, put your own country first. We need every country to put themselves, they do it anyway. They all do it anyway. They just get upset when he's like, oh, but America should be giving us, they should be growing kidneys and giving us a new kidney every month. No, it's time for cutting all this, we can pull our troops back out of Europe at this point. Will Europe go into another war? Let me tell you what, it could. It really could. And that would be bad, obviously. So we have to think about that, because keep in mind, Europe was worse than the Middle East. We talk about the Middle East today as a fractious place that's always got problems. But let me tell you what, before the United States military, like I used to be stationed there, and many people on my string were stationed there, or maybe their family was. Before we were stationed there, Europe was worse than the Middle East. 2 world wars came out of Europe. 2 world wars. Communism was born in Europe. Socialism was born. You can't even, I mean, whenever Germans are in the basement thinking about philosophy, I'm really concerned about what'll come out, what virus will come out of that basement, like thought virus, communism, Nazism. I love Germany, but let's face it, they come up with some philosophies that have caused huge human damage, and so we have to think about how we do this. But we need to close the IRS, and we need to make a national sales tax. Make it simple. Our sales tax is X, period, and that's it. It's a very simple thing that can be done at every cash register. And people go, oh, you got to make an allowance for the poor and blah, 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 right? Listen, we will save a huge amount of money by just not having, unless you've been in business yourself, it may be very difficult for you to understand how much effort and work go into nonsense bullshit. Go into just filling out paperwork and paying money to this. How much of those taxes actually go into just keeping the tax agencies open? Threatening people, having Nazi-like powers, the government, at low levels of government, really low levels, like really, truly, like incredible powers. We need to get rid of all that and have a national sales tax, because we need to pay taxes, but we need to change the way we do it. We need to get rid of all this fat. Look, a lot of people are going to be unemployed. A lot of people's pensions are going to be dead. Do you want to keep a government functioning the way it is now? The one that got us into this, the one that helped build China, the one that has built a $20 trillion debt that's probably going to shoot up to, 22, I guess. It's probably going to shoot up to, I don't know, 35. We could be looking at hyperinflation. I know some people on my page have lived in many parts of the world, as have I, And if you've lived in a country with hyperinflation, you'll see. You see the people down in in country, in socialist and communist countries, when they go bad, suddenly they're not overweight. It's very, yeah. We need a flat tax rate, and it needs to be done in short order. Now, if President Trump wants to get reelected, because he's running against this virus, the virus is his serious threat. Running on closing down the IRS and just doing a flat tax rate, that'll get you some votes. I don't know how it really works out on the big wash, but I can tell you one thing. I'll bet you just about every business owner will vote for you. Anybody that's ever run a business. Okay. Yeah. Like Colin Smith says. He says, I don't worry about $100 trillion debt. I worry about my lunch will cost $200,000. Right. All right. Yeah. As Keith Greenleaf says, he was reading about 2 million Americans about to file for unemployment. Probably more than that, based on what I'm seeing. And I mean, it could be up to 30%. Have you ever been in a country that's even 15% unemployed? It's really serious. It's really serious. It's really serious. I don't know, Irene, if that's what the president's really saying. Irene is saying, what do you think about our president ready to stop the quarantine and feels the virus is under control? I haven't seen that comment. I don't know if he's saying that or not, because I haven't seen it. Yeah. All right. Let me see here. Dan Littleton, USPS, which is the United States Postal Service, bills the IRS, which is our, for people that don't know about the United States, that's our federal tax office, you might say, $43 million per year for undelivered mail because residents don't inform them of a new address. Lovely. Imagine all that paper and all the nonsense. Yeah. I think this is a 511. Wei Shun? I don't know. All my shirts are like 511 and that sort of thing. I can tell you next time I'm on if I remember to look. I think it is 511. Let's see. All right. Let me go off now, but we certainly have a lot to talk about. Fauci wasn't at today's press conference. Fauci. I tell you what, we're going to have to make some changes. 681 cases now in Texas. Watch. Texas is going to get smashed. Every state in the country is going to get smashed, period, including Alaska. Every state is going to get hit. I don't know any country that's not going to get hit. Hong Kong has been keeping a lid on it, but I think Hong Kong's going to pop, is the way it's starting to look. Well, if you want me to stay on and keep chatting, I can do it for a while longer if that's what you're. But if you have something, I can try to answer. I'm not a general, but I have been paying attention, and I've lived coast to coast, and I've owned small businesses, and I own a small business now. I'm incorporated, or a LLC in Florida, to operate this. So I know, there's so much paperwork and nonsense. Watch it and let us know what you think of today's presser. Okay, I'll look. I need to watch everything that the president says. So I watch his speeches, and I've been watching Como as well. Yeah, we can't open everything up. No way we can open everything now. Actually, let me go offline now, and I will go see what the president has said. Yeah, I this is going to go on very long. It's not going to, and remember with the peaks, Michael Martin, different parts of the country are going to peak at different times. So just like different countries are peaking at different times. Michael Yan, very surprised you didn't listen to the president's press conference. Got to stay up on this stuff. No, I do watch them. I don't see them all exactly live though, because I have to sleep as well. What do you mean you feel I should be abreast of what our country is doing? That's what I do 7 days a week. The only time I'm not paying attention is when I'm either online uh, or I'm sleeping. I stay on top of it, but I can't watch everything live, and so I watch all his speeches. Jordan Paul is saying, at what point do I head from the city into my family cabin up north? Well, it depends on where you live and many things. I mean, if you live in New York City, you should have been gone. Uh, but if you live in some small city in Florida, I don't know. And how far is your cabin as well? Is it just like 20 miles up the mountain, or is it you're just like going from Waynesville up to a mountaintop, or are you going you know like hundreds of miles away and crossing several state borders? That could change the calculation considerably. Okay. Thank you, Alan. I'll stay on it. Um, Good night, Lois. What? Oh, I hope Melania is negative for coronavirus. I hope very much. She needs to be tested. Everybody that comes anywhere near the president should be tested. Uh, yeah. All right. Detroit, Michigan, 4 hours up. Oh, if it's 4 hours north and you're in Detroit, I wouldn't be in Detroit much longer. That's for sure. Um, okay. Oh, good. So I hope Melania was negative, and Michael Pence was negative too. That's great. All right, let me go offline. I want to see what is the latest thing. I saw some of what he was saying earlier. I didn't, or maybe I have seen his latest. I might have actually seen his latest presser. I might have already watched it this morning because what first thing I do is like, okay, what did the president say? What did the vice president say? Did that Surgeon General clown say anything again? And I see my friend Steve Bannon's like now being defending the Surgeon General, and I just politely disagree with that. Actually, Bannon is brilliant. He is absolutely brilliant. He's always worth. Oh, Colin Smith, he's saying he's not that big of a troll. He's just an annoyance. Well, it'd be good to stop annoying people. There's too much going on to put up with nonsense. Good. Mike Pence's wife is negative for the virus. Good. Let's see. Hospitals in small mountain towns cannot take more people. Take note before relocating to these areas for everyone's benefit, please. Well, hopefully, if they get up there and they isolate, the idea is to get away from it so you don't get it. Um, Colin Smith says, thanks again, Michael. I'm high risk, and when I get it, I might go down for good. But I got my family prepped. You encouraged me to do so. Great. And they will be grateful. That's great. It makes me feel good to know that you've taken action based on I work hard to give you the proper information. Okay. I might have already seen it, Irene. Let me go ahead. Let me go offline and let me see if the president has said something that I missed. All right. Great talking with everybody. We've been online for 3 hours. Mike out. End.